It's better.
Diane,
Oh, I can hear you. It's a bad echo.
hold on 1 second. You're gonna lose video and we'll be back in a second.
Okay.
And go ahead and try one more time.
Okay. You want me to log off and log back on? Jared, do you want me to log off and back on? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
perfect.
Oh, there you guys are. And I'm guessing Leanne logged off and she's coming back also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Leanne back on. And let me know when she is and I'll start, with, okay, she's on. Okay, Alder Wolf, go ahead and start with your public input, please.
Oh, I have none. My concern was that we couldn't hear any audio whatsoever. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so second call for public input. Do you have anyone online that you?
Oh, we've heard from everybody online.
Third and final call for public input. Public input is closed. At this point, we'll move on to item number 4, snowmobile trail for 2022-2023 winter season. Jared.
Thank you. Attached to your packet tonight is a request from the Cooley Snowdrift for Snowmobile Club. This is their annual request for the continuation of the snowmobile route throughout the city. On page 2, we do have the map of the route that has been used for a number of years previously. We have not had any complaints with the snowmobile trail in the last few years. The trail has been in place many years. The police chief is here also if you'd like to ask him. This is their annual approval of the trail. I don't see any from staff. We have no reason to not move it forward.
Any comments, questions?
I make a motion that we approve the snowmobile trail for 2022-2023 winter season as described in our packet.
I'll second. Second. All right, I'll give it to you, Larry. So, motion made by Mayor Smith to approve and seconded by Larry Jurassic. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5, purchase of 2023
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Police Department vehicles. I think I'll ask Chief to come forward and he can discuss this.
Good evening. As detailed in my memo in your packet, unfortunately, Ford had opened up the purchasing or ordering of squad cars for literally 2 days. And as you could tell there that we missed that deadline. I was out of town, did not get that email, but we do have an opportunity to secure those vehicles through vehicles that they had ordered. So I'm looking tonight, and I realize you're just starting this capital improvement budget. But I'm hoping that we can get a verbal commitment from the committee to move forward with the purchasing of those vehicles so I can at least let Ewald all know. And of course, this would not occur until next summer. So it would be next year's funds, just like any other year. So we're not committing to this year's funds. I realize this is an early ask in the process. So does anybody have any questions?
So this is for the one, what I have here is 151,400. It's because you had a 5.8K short of the actual cost off of item number 55. That's how I get to that. You originally had a lesser amount. That's what you're talking here. And these would be ARPA funds. So let's go to item number 55 on the submitted capital improvements. Got the marked police vehicles for 145,600, but based on our conversation, you mentioned that that was actually short by about 5.8K.
Yeah, between that and the unmarked vehicle, there was a total deficit of about 9,100.
So you're including the unmarked in that as well.
Correct. Yep, a total of 3 vehicles. So essentially, there's kind of 2 things going on here. One is I'm looking for a commitment, so that I can let Ewald know that we will commit to purchasing these 3 vehicles. The second part is there is the $9,100 deficit for my original quoted, 3 cars total, 9,100 spread over the 3. But I have some funds from 2022 that I want to carry over with your permission to help offset, not completely, but pretty close, offset that $9,100 deficit.
I think you had mentioned 7K, that was specifically for the unmarked police vehicle, I think, unless it doesn't matter. That I had, you had 7K in 2022 or in 2022 ARPA remaining.
Yeah, so the challenge is right now, it looks to be between $6,000 and $8,000 that I am estimating to have left over. And this is the problem. I don't actually have the 2022 cars yet. Yeah,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And so once they come in, I'm going to have obviously costs of outfitting them, the different aspects of that. So I don't have exact final numbers, but I feel pretty confident that I will have probably in excess of somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 that I should be able to carry over. And I'll of course have a more final number.
That's the 7K I'm going with. I'm just
Yes.
averaging it out. Okay, so I just want to make sure, since you're asking us to actually consider something tonight, that we get these numbers right. So again, so it's off of item number 55 and 56. And so I'm pulling out my calculator. Sabrina, please. Is that wrong?
I think you're just referring to item 55, just the police vehicles, not the unmarked police vehicle, correct?
Nope, both. It's all three. Yep,
Oh, okay,
yep. It's through
Sorry.
Ewald, the same, yep, the same order.
okay.
I'm gonna talk out loud as we go through the work and I use the calculator. I think I've got it right on my sheet, but I want to make sure. So item 55 was listed as 145,600. But you mentioned to me that that was actually have to add 5,800 onto
I
that.
have 143,600. Is mine wrong?
I also have 143, 667. That is,
145,600.
I got 145,600.
What the heck? Are we working off different sheets? That's gonna be a nightmare. That's,
I'm working off the one in the packet.
me as well.
oh my, so it updated
We
again.
had before.
The one that came in the packet.
Yep.
Is that what you have what we have?
Yep, that's the one in the packet.
There
One more
was,
time. Make it true.
there were a few changes from the last budget that was submitted and then in the current packet.
right,
Chief
so-
had came to me and we increased the cost of the vehicles. And then subtracted out the ARPA funding to get to the 143,667.
That still doesn't. So even if you
They're
go
actually
with
updated numbers in the
143,
packet,
you
I
still
think,
have to add
right?
the 5.8K or no? So Chief, what's the cost of the marked vehicles? That's the bottom line.
143,667 after the 8,000 deduction of ARPA funding. And the unmarked car is $74,233 for a total to purchase all three vehicles of 217,900 needed in funding.
And that, okay, that includes both the additional cost for the marked and the 7K that we're planning on that he will have left from last year.
Yes, with the addition that I think we added 8,000 instead of 7K, and that's reflected in the packet. Just so you're straight on numbers.
So you're going with the 8K, okay. All right. So 217. Jared, one more time, could you tell me the cost of just the marked police vehicles?
Marked police vehicles, total cost is 151,667, less 8,000 for left or unused 2022 funds. Gives us a total amount needed of 143,667 for two marked squad cars. One unmarked vehicle is 74,233 needed for borrowing. And the total needed
Again, that figure? 70, what?
74,233.
233. All right. And then the total's 217,900. Got it. Okay. I can, from my perspective, and we're getting ahead of ourselves here in a way. Does anyone have a problem if I move this item to discuss further to be included with our discussion on the capital improvements budget under number 8? And we can maybe even do a motion on that at that time. Because otherwise, we're not looking at the big picture here. I don't see personally a problem, Chief, to be honest, but that's just me. And the question I have is, is everyone else here comfortable moving on this without having looked at the entire 2023 budget proposal first? Mayor?
Before we do that, I'd like to I understand, these are different times than what we've ever experienced before. As the chief said, we don't even have the 2022 vehicles yet. So to
Yeah.
try to wait 2 more months to proceed with this is probably not realistic. But I just wanted to see if Sabrina had any specific input. And otherwise, I'm okay with approving the process and putting a star by these, because these are items that I feel are very critical. We know that in the past during difficult budgets, we have foregone some of the budget or the scheduled vehicle replacements, and it's put us in a really, really tough spot further on down the road. So I think it's critical that the police have their vehicles, but I just want to hear from Sabrina first, and then whether we make a decision now or later is to the will of the committee.
Sabrina?
Thank you. So I think it is important to stay on track, especially with the marked police vehicles. I don't know the history of the unmarked. I don't know if Chief, you could speak to that a little bit. I guess when we were having our discussions, I was just thinking of the marked vehicles, but if you could talk a little bit about the unmarked, is that normal that you replace that every so often, or kind of what the policy is for that?
Sure, the unmarked vehicles are on typically a 10-year rotation. And so this particular vehicle is at that 10-year rotation. What we would want to do is we're going to transition that vehicle, actually transition the Dare vehicle out because that's a higher mileage and has been more of a lemon vehicle. So we want to transition this vehicle to the Dare car to get longer life out of that. And then we would replace that unmarked with the new unmarked. I think that gives us the best bang for our buck.
So on the ARPA side of the house here, I was going to mention this when we got to item 8, is I'm thinking we're looking at a goal spending this year of somewhere between 700 and 750,000 on ARPA funds. That's based off conversations with Sabrina as well, which would leave us somewhere around 500 or 520,000 left when, depending where we sit, which would have to be expended next year or we lose it. So with that said, one second, Mayor, I actually had both the 2 squad cars and the unmarked car above the line in the ARPA that it could be funded this year anyway. So I don't have a problem with that. Just understand that if we do approve this, that will come off of that target goal if that's something that we all can agree with that we want to hit. And we have to consider that when we get to number 8. Mayor.
Yeah, my concern came with your ARPA reference. I think this particular $8,000 of ARPA money is a decision that was made in 2022, correct? And so I think any ARPA fund expenditures related to 2023 have yet to be discussed.
Well, that's where I'm going though. If we approve these, they're going to come out of ARPA unless we're going to take a short-term loan. The whole idea with that, we had agreed as a council last year, which again, we have new members, so we can have a different vote. But last year was that we were going to focus our ARPA money on avoiding any higher interest short-term loans for the next 3 years, which are only, if those are 5-year loans, they have to be paid back very quickly, which at the end of that time period would leave us with only 2 years of short-term higher interest loans remaining. So, I mean, I have no problem with the vehicles, but I would actually oppose if we took out a short-term loan on them, I would want to use ARPA money.
I think that bears further discussion,
Okay,
but I can agree with purchasing the vehicles.
but I can't if I don't know where the money's coming from.
Well, then we'll have to save the approval till he's not going to be able to order them until we can approve them.
I understand. So do you have a concern about using ARPA?
I think we should reconsider our ARPA spending strategy. But is that even part of this discussion, Amanda?
It'll be under the budget.
You're gonna have that discussion at council next week.
If we want to no longer avoid short-term loans and use the ARPA for something else.
Potentially divide and use some of it to avoid short-term loans and some of it to do a sort of legacy project or some project for the community.
Jared.
Just kind of what Mayor Smith had echoed, we probably about 10 years ago, we did not fund any squad car replacements for 1 year, and the next year we funded 1, and we got so far behind trying to catch up. It took us probably 5 years to catch up, and it just made it tough on our city mechanic because there was more repairs to do. The cars were just breaking down. So I think, and this is a unique area. I know Public Works came in and requested some vehicle purchases. We have some vehicle purchases that we have in the capital improvement budget that we can discuss later. But if we miss this window, basically the police department will not get any vehicles in 2023.
So
with that, I would state that this, we can all agree that the funding would be, we could discuss where the funding would come from later in the capital improvements budget. But I really believe if we want to keep on with our squad car replacement and the police department vehicle replacement plan, we need to move forward with this. It is unfortunate that they only gave us a few days to order vehicles. I would point out that these would still be bought under the state bid. These were state bid vehicles, so they were still under the state bid. Otherwise, we're going to have to look at other procurement options, and I just don't think those are going to be few and far between. Thank you.
Again, I totally support getting them, so long as we use ARPA. I mean, we would still have approximately $1 million of ARPA left if we used ARPA on these right now to talk about what other projects you might want to do next month. I mean, are you looking at more than $1 million of other projects?
I just want to have the discussion. Ultimately, the decision isn't mine. You know, it's the council's decision. But I do think the discussion is important. I think it's important to consider leaving a legacy for our community with that money.
Steve?
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I see the mayor's part as far as, and I see Chief's part, especially with the need for the equipment. It's gonna go through no matter how we change our funds from one pot to the other. That's all you need is just a blessing to go through with it, right?
Correct.
We don't need to have the funds directed directly to you right now, correct? Okay. I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 3 vehicles for the police department.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve both the marked and vehicles and the unmarked vehicle by Larry Jurassic, seconded by Mayor Smith. Discussion. And boy, I don't even know how I'm going to vote on this. I don't like voting for purchasing over $200,000 in items and not knowing where the money's going to come from. That really doesn't sit right with me at all. We don't even have a recommendation to Common Council going forward on that. And I think that it's the responsibility of this board to have that discussion. Really, we should be providing a recommendation of where we think the money should come from.
I agree, but I think we can do that later on in the meeting tonight, but for the chief's benefit right now.
But how do I vote to approve or disapprove if I don't know, if we are not going to have that discussion now?
As right now, listed in the capital improvement budget, it's listed as being part of the capital improvement budget. And I don't think there's any ARPA money identified, is there? For 2023 ARPA, none is identified, correct?
Not this time, not this time.
Right.
No, that's correct. But again, I was running off the assumption off what the council voted on last year, that our ARPA money should be dedicated towards avoiding those high interest short-term loans. And this would fall underneath that.
But none of those funds are identified in this capital improvement budget at this point. So really, you're not deviating.
I can't agree with that. I don't see it that way at all. I mean, we know that this won't be bonded. So by default, it's one or the other, short-term loan or ARPA.
I would just add that, I mean, and traditionally, we have done the state trust loans for squad cars. That's traditionally how it's been. I understand the concept and not arguing that, you know, it's not a good idea to do ARPA or not, or whatever, but that has been traditionally the way these cars have been funded. So you wouldn't be going outside of that. It's just changing from the theory from last year.
I do get that, but again, that's not what the Common Council had decided last year. But we can always change that. Jared, you had your hand?
I was just going to offer to clarify the motion, or maybe I could restate if whatever you. I think we're looking to authorize the police chief to move forward with ordering the cars at a future time. We will have to ascertain how they will be specifically funded. Whatever mechanism there's multiple mechanisms we can use to fund them. We could use fund balance, we could use capital improvements, we could use ARPA, we could use equipment replacement budget. There's multiple ways we could do this, but right now the real technical issue at hand is, do we allow the chief to order the vehicles because we have to do it now?
That's what my amendment was funded. There was no.
That was my
mention.
intention with the motion as well.
So funding was not mentioned in the amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, chief.
Item number 6, Theater Road and County Road PH Roundabout Public Information Meeting to be held on October 20th, 2022. This is for information only. Jared.
In your packet tonight, I have included a letter that was sent out to various property owners for the roundabout project. The public information meeting will be held October 20th at City Hall. We're just getting the word out and hope everyone attends.
Any questions? Yes, Mayor.
I have a question. Was this just sent to a certain perimeter, or will it be advertised through the media in case? I mean, a lot of people drive through this area that may be interested. Was it just like 500 feet they were mailed the letter, or what?
It'll be the project limits, and then we will also do a little buffer around it, but I actually did get one call from a news outlet already. They saw it in the packet,
Okay,
which spurred them. So I've already got the news outlet. We've got an interview scheduled a couple days beforehand to get it out in the media. So we'll follow up with the media and send it out as a press release too.
and maybe a social media?
Yes, we can do that too.
It was the 20th.
October 20th?
Correct.
Any other discussion, questions, clarification? Okay, that's that agenda item is closed. Moving on to item number 7, Empower Resiliency Project Scoping Study of City Hall by Excel Energy. We have representatives.
Yes, I'll just kind of start it off here and then I'll turn it over to our partners from Excel Energy. City staff were made aware of a program through Excel Energy where they would look at the resiliency of our power grid to our buildings. Staff thought because of the generator project that was approved for design at City Hall, this had some synergy, and we thought this would be a good thing to look at with Excel. With that, we did meet multiple times over the last 4 months to discuss the project. I've had multiple meetings, some of them in person, some of them on Zoom. From these meetings, we did get the preliminary project scoping study that is included in your packet tonight as a document starting on page 10. With that, I guess I'd introduce Mike Heroes here tonight, along with Dave Robinson. We've been working with those individuals on this project. With that, I guess going through this, it's been a great learning effort with all parties involved trying to go through it. But I guess with that, if you want to allow Dave to come up and give
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Council. Thank you very much. I'm Dave Robinson. I'm a Strategic Energy Solutions Manager with Excel Energy, and I'm pleased to be here tonight on behalf of Jared and the project. Excel Energy has a long-standing partnership with the City of Onalaska on a number of issues and opportunities. Over a year ago, Excel Energy recognized that many of our customers' requirements for power are more than we can provide normally from our poles and wires in the communities and neighborhoods. So for the first time, we're now offering services that come onto the customer's property and are still regulated by the Public Service Commission to offer resiliency services. So in the case of the City of Onalaska, Jared and his team let us know that they're working on a project for a natural gas generator. And we thought we would look at that kind of independently of his team, but also consider possibly adding more to the renewable energy and the sustainability of the system as well. So we looked at a combination project that includes a natural gas generator for City Hall and this whole facility, as well as solar, PV, and battery storage to make it more renewable, make it more sustainable, and to help lower that fuel burden if there's ever an outage. If there's a long-term outage, that system would not just burn the natural gas, but it also would use the solar power generation as part of the project. Is it okay, Jared, if I pass out the one page? Okay.
Yep. Kevin will help him out.
Thanks, Kevin. So rather than have you all read a 15-page report, I kind of summarize things on one slide just to make it a little bit easier to understand and relate. As we entered the project and working with Jared and his team, our goal was to increase resiliency for the essential city services here in Alaska at this facility. We wanted to add some visible renewable solar PV energy to the facility to let the citizens know that you're investing in renewable energy sources that make the better for the environment for all this for the long term. And then also to lower ongoing electricity operating costs, which is what the solar PV would do for the city. Our independent estimate of the project cost would be around $914,000. That, of course, does not consider recently announced Inflation Reduction Act credits that would come back to the city on the order of 30% of the investment. There are also grants available through the Wisconsin Public Service Commission that can also be applied directly to this particular project. This year will be the third year of the grant. It has not been released yet officially, but last year's grant, for example, was issued October 15th, 2021, with proposals due in January of 2022. And they awarded millions of dollars of Public Service Commission money to invest and find ways to implement renewables and resiliency solutions, just like the one that's being considered here. So that would in all likelihood greatly reduce the cost to the city for moving forward this type of project. The annual savings for the system, we figure as a conservative number, at least $15,400 per year of reduced costs to the city. That's directly from the electric utility bill. From a deliverable standpoint, our Empower Resiliency Program, Xcel Energy is very much involved working with the city to design, build, and provide ongoing O&M for all the system components. So it's not adding to staff burden or in areas of expertise that no one really here knows much about. So that's a nice thing for the city. Xcel Energy initially considered this program as one where customers who couldn't afford the upfront capital could finance it with us as the utility. So we would own it for 10 years. After 10 years, revert back to the customer. That is on the table for you all, but we recognize the fact that oftentimes you have access to cheaper capital than we do as a utility company. So we can take it either way, either paying it up front or financing it and putting it as a line item on your utility bill. And Jared's been very clear, trying to keep that utility bill low is important for them. As a program, all subcontracts that we implement on behalf of this project are passed through to you without any kind of markup. So we're not like a general contractor adding, 15, 20, 25% to the bill. Everything passes right through to you as a city. What we buy it for from our subcontractors is what you will pay. We will provide overall project management, and we will have long-term system support from Xcel Energy here locally in the La Crosse County area. So on the right side of the handout is just kind of a pictorial representation of what we plan to do. So both having some rooftop photovoltaic solar power, some canopy over in the parking lot area that will provide not just the solar PV production, but also shade for police cars and citizen cars as they come to deal with City Hall. There'll be the natural gas genset, of course, which is part of the system, kind of the anchor asset, and the battery energy storage system, which will help all these pieces work together and coordinate through power outages and other operations. So with that, I'll turn it back to Jared.
So that's a good overview of what kind of was in the report. I guess we're just kind of, this kind of ties into what's in our capital improvements budget tonight also. We got some of these items such as the natural gas genset, the funding of the actual construction of it. Some of the solar PV items are in the capital improvement budget also. So I guess we want to get this in front of you so we can get feedback on it. it's been an interesting process trying to go through everything. So just wanted to see what the board had for questions and kind of get some discussion going.
So got a couple questions. So I'm seeing $914,000 investment with a savings, you're saying minimum. So I mean, we're going off the conservative element here, 15,400 a year. That's a little over 59-year return on investment is what I'm seeing here. What is the life expectancy of the batteries?
Understand that the $914,000 investment does include the backup standby generator, which was already planned for City Hall. So that the savings from that particular item were not included in the overall in the annual savings. So the annual savings is really just from the solar PV and the battery. To answer your question, the life cycle of the battery is around 20 years.
That's what I thought. Okay. So they won't even pay for themselves before we have to replace them because of the return on investment is so far out. What's the life expectancy of the solar panels?
Solar panels, probably can go 30 to 40 years, depending on the inverter life. You may need to change inverters out in the middle of that.
Okay. And of course, the generator is probably around 25 or something like that, I imagine.
It's typical.
So what I'm looking at here is we'll have to replace this entire infrastructure well before we ever realize any savings. When I see annual savings, we're actually not saving anything. This is costing the taxpayers a bundle. What am I missing?
Steve, I was just gonna say that, I'm Mike Harrell, by the way, the local manager here. This is this program is not like a lighting program where I'm gonna say, hey, we're gonna do all LEDs and we're gonna pay it back in 10 years. You have to have, it's not gonna make it based on its payback. It's gonna make it based on its resiliency benefits and renewable benefits and things like that. So it's not like your standard energy conservation project because it's different. We're coming inside the meter, we're doing work, we're adding batteries, we're adding solar. In this case, we're adding value to we believe to the natural gas generator that's already planned as a backup for this facility, critical facility. It's a new program. It's a pilot program. We just started last year. We're working with quite a few communities on this for the same type reason, same type applications. But if you look at this program solely based on payback, no, it's never going to pass the muster there. You've got to be looking at the other benefits from it.
Well, boy, it'd have to have benefits that are astounding because of the cost. I mean, we're going to have to completely redo this entire system within about 30 years, give or take. The solars are 30 to 40 and 20 years for batteries, 25 years for the generator. Now, the generator is for emergency purposes anyway, correct? So that's more of an emergency management piece. Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
So it all ties together with the generator and being an emergency management piece. As Mike Hero stated from Excel, it's not like he stated, the lighting replacement where you're going to take out an incandescent bulb and put in an LED bulb and have a payback in 10 years that you're going to pay for the project. It's the soft items that you are going to gain in knowing that if we did have a power outage, we would have not just the gen set, but we would have the photovoltaic solar to go with it. It's the environmental impacts of having the solar. If in the packet, one of the interesting items in the pack or in the study that was included in your packet tonight on page 16, there's a graph that shows that basically 75% of the time we're using under 100 kilowatts in this building, which could be all provided for by the solar panels. So that, there's obviously times during the day where we are at a peak demand, but and during winter and or during the middle of summer when we have a air conditioning going. But there's a lot of times where we would not even have to maybe be on the grid at all. So there are residual benefits besides just the payback of the units themselves. And I think that's the policy decision that has to be discussed and moved forward.
Then that's the discussion we should have. When I hear the words payback and annual savings, I don't find that to be helpful for me because there are no annual savings. There is no payback. As far as financially goes, any payback might be in, emergency management backup systems, things of that nature, but it's not in dollars. This is going to be very, very expensive and it'll be a permanent cost. It will become more expensive over time because it won't even paid for itself before we have to replace it all. So, yeah. Yes, Sabrina.
Yeah. So my question is, in regards to some of the grant funding, that's possible, how much have you been seeing, come through for that with other municipalities that have gone this route or other businesses that have gone this route? Like approximately how much? I know you mentioned possibly the PSC, like I'm just curious, dollar figures of what you've seen.
Sure. So right now we're working with Bayfield County. They received a grant 2 years ago for $250,000 to make a microgrid for their jail and courthouse. We're working with other cities and towns. AgriPure, a manufacturer in town, got a $250,000 similar grant funding from the Wisconsin Public Service Commission last year. So these are real numbers, and at a minimum, we will help the city apply for the grant this coming year to see what happens. That could take a big bite out of the overall cost of the project. That plus we're also still looking into the Inflation Reduction Act potential, reductions in the overall capital cost.
Now that though would only apply for the initial infrastructure purchase. That grant money almost certainly would probably not be available 20, 25 and 35 years from now when we have to replace all three items. That cost is going to fall almost certainly 100% on the shoulders of the Onalaska taxpayer. Yeah, Jared.
Then I would say that if your useful life is gone and at that time you would not replace it if there was other factors involved and there was not newer technology or something like that, then that's a decision that can be made at that time.
And I don't know about kicking the can down. I mean, the
You're not-
decision,
you're not
I
kicking
would
the
take any
can.
grant money we can get if we're going to do this. Don't get me wrong. But again, if we're going to go down on dollars as if this is a great financial benefit, it just, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. It's not. Now, maybe we want to do it anyway. But yeah.
Even if you just look at the numbers, if you take off the gen set, because we have come to the conclusion that the council has approved the design. So if you do not include the gen set, and that is an item that we feel we need at City Hall to keep the building going in case of emergency. If you're down to the page 23, I've included the breakdown that Mr. Robinson gave me. So 452,000 plus 72,000 for the batteries and the solar PV. You're at 524,000 if you could get a 30% grant. For that, the project cost will be down to 366,800, and if you take the 15,000 approximately per year, you're down to under 25 years of having it returned. And I would guess over time, maybe Mike could speak to this, and you're trying to be conservative in your cost savings, but there's probably things coming down the pike that would help that also. Plus we'd be using, that's at today's cost of electricity. That doesn't have any future,
Technology and cost change. I understand that.
Yeah, you're right. And Jared, like you said, the cost of electricity continue to rise. And the other thing, Steve, I think we don't know what this is all going to look like in 25 years. People may say, we're not doing solar anymore, but at a basic, you're going to want to have your generator, which you're already going to approve. But who knows? What will happen in 25 years? I have no idea. Maybe we'll be putting hydrogen cells around here or something else. So I would not say it's a given that after 25 years, when the efficiency of these solar panels start to go down, that you're going to replace it one for one. Maybe it'll be some kind of a newfangled solar thing that you would want to go to anyway. So I think it's really hard to look and say, well, in 25 years, we're going to have to do all this replace, because I'm not sure if that's true. If you look at 25 years ago, if we thought we'd be talking about this stuff now, we wouldn't be. So, but like I said before, if you look strictly on a financial thing, yeah, it gets you into that 20-25 year, and that's been pretty typical for solar panels anyways. This offers some other benefits, with the solar PV, and working in the switching system and things like that. So,
Larry.
You had mentioned several other grants that you're working with, different counties and stuff like that. What percentage of the total project would you say that was? 10%, 20%?
The majority of grants I've seen have funded well over 50% of the project value in those cities. Now, Bayfield County, it's almost 90%. AgriPure, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I would guess it's well over 50% of the overall project cost, because the Public Service Commission sees these as demonstration projects that they can learn and apply the best learnings to other people across the state of Wisconsin.
So you're saying 50% with those funds, then 30% on a direct payment?
Two separate programs. One is basically for many years, there's been solar incentives from the federal government in the form of a tax credit.
Right.
City of Alaska doesn't pay taxes. They fixed that this year with the Inflation Reduction Act, that there's a direct reimbursement program instead of a tax credit that leverages the available funding from the federal government.
So it'd be realistic to you look at 500,000 basically instead of the 900.
Well, it depends on if they would apply that towards your generator cost, but.
Yeah, we
And
don't,
then this is all, Larry, this is all really new. I mean, all these, the Inflation Act and all these other things are coming down. And so we're in the process of seeing how that fits with our program and being able to support some of these activities. I think it has a great potential with the PSC money and some of the other opportunities. So,
Evan. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I think the intent of this tonight was just to make the council aware of it. I would say potentially we're getting a little off track. This was, in talking to Excel, like a 10,000 foot view, right? This was, we got close enough at the design team, Jared, Amanda, and I, and Dan, that we thought we should involve the common council and the board on this. You know, if we would get direction, it sounds like, Steve, you want to make sure that, you know, there's some payback. I know even in this, the savings they list, if I remember right, Dave, don't even have any arbitrage in there. This is purely just like the savings they're showing is like, when the power goes out, we'll use the battery to replace that, or the gen set, but we could use the battery. This doesn't even count yet if we leave the solar panels on and just directly feed that into our regular meter, right? So I think this right now, I think it's just an idea of, you know, a general view of a concept of what this could do, right? And we would need more time with Excel to bring back something that's, you know, harder numbers, what the overall savings were, dig a little farther into grants. There's potentially some possibilities here for funding options, but I don't think that's the level we're at right now in the discussion.
Thanks. Also, I just want to be clear, there's two things at place here. I mean, I'm talking about return on investment, but we're also talking about using this primarily as a emergency operations center or city hall backup, so that we can stay functional either through a loss of power, through a natural disaster, what have you. So that changes, that shifts the cost versus benefit analysis to a large degree too, because in an emergency, we have to stay operational. And I do understand that. But when I do hear words like annual savings and cost benefit and all that, it's like, well, I think that's maybe something we need to look at closer. Well, I do have one other concern that I'd like to kind of throw out there as we move forward. And it's as reference to solar. It's not the canopy PV, it's the rooftop PV. Rooftop PVs also have certain issues that can come with them. Number one, it's added weight onto the roof. It creates an additional firefighter hazard if there is a fire in the building. Roof mounted anything, it creates, you know, whether it be HVAC, it doesn't matter. If it's up on the roof, it creates an issue if there's a fire in the building. But second, it creates difficulties for venting because firefighters can't get to the rooftop to put a vent hole in with solar panels blocking it, all right? And the third item I have that's a concern that needs to be considered is it also creates an electrocution issue for anyone who does need to go onto the rooftop too. Because tell me if I'm wrong, technology may have changed, but with a solar, I know you can cut off the power to the building, but the cells are still generating, correct? Once they're turned on?
They won't generate without the grid being on with the current inverters that are out there. Once that main goes off, they cease functioning.
They do.
yes,
Okay.
there's been some changes, Steve, and
Okay, good.
and actually all solar installations you have to go through us to make sure they're safe, because we're concerned too, to make sure our linemen aren't up working on the line and we got all this electricity coming back. So, no, we'd make sure this is safe. And I know your concerns about the rooftop stuff too. I've been worried, I was worried about that a little early on, but I think these things are made well enough, and then they're getting that part done. If you have rubber membrane roofs, I was worried about leaking and things like that, but I think that the technology is further enough along that I think we would, and we've got really good partners that we'd be working with on this to make sure that was not an issue. And we would for sure, certainly could go through your fire department, make sure they could, if they're axed through that solar panel, get that hole in or wherever they're gonna use it for. So
Okay.
we would cover that. Like I said, we have some really good partners on board that are gonna be helping us with this and many other projects we're gonna be doing. This whole resiliency thing is just, it's gaining momentum. And so we're finding not only buildings like this that are going to be a hub in case all heck breaks loose and you lose power for days, but also just some businesses that need that resiliency too.
Yeah, page 19 shows an estimated layout of figure 8 of what the solar would look like on the roof of just kind of the main building off to the east. And, you know, there'd be plenty of walkway between the panels to allow for people to check on the connections, and or if there's firefighting occurring, that they would hopefully be able to get through that. And we
Okay.
would certainly work with them on the final
Yeah.
layout and design.
Yeah. I
And
think I would appreciate that. Yeah.
Kevin's right. I think today we just wanted to come and let you know what we're working on. So that it's all transparent, and if you hear something, you know that
Sure.
we're having meetings and seeing if this is the right fit. Or hope if it is great, if not, that's okay too. We're just trying to make sure this would work and meets your needs, and it's a product that we're excited about, but we want to make sure it's the right fit.
Well, thank you, Dave and Mike,
you.
for coming in. I enjoyed the report. I learned a lot from it, and I appreciate your comments today.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. So next is item number 8, review and consideration of the 2023 capital improvements budget. Before we get going, I did this last year. If you all don't see any value in it, we won't, although I think last year there was. Basically, I handed out my initial look, and that's all it is. This is only meant to be a conversation starter, just like last year. In the end, the Board of Public Works will decide on what the recommendations are to go forward to Common Council as a whole. It won't just be me. The way that I did this, first off, I kind of went through on my own through the entire list and said, in a perfect world, what would I want to do this year? And I ended up coming up with 44 items for a grand total of $4,257,000. You'll see that's different because I made a mistake underlying my 1 to N line 40. That should be $109,000, not $109. Just a small minor mistake there. So, but obviously 4,257,000 was above what we discussed as a, hopefully a goal of staying within about 3.25 and 3.3. So all I did was I 1 to end these, and then I drew a line under the, when I hit that, in this case, 3.3 million, 3.303 under line 34, that's where my 1 to N reached the cap. So that was my methodology here. So, keeping in mind, we do have a target. We can't do everything. If we decide to increase the target, that's up to the board. Again, the way we did it was you just kind of started going down and like, who thinks that there was something that's a higher priority, and really a priority that needs to be funded that falls below that cutoff that really should be included here, and that we should consider that instead of something else. Do we want to continue to go forward like we did last year, Mayor?
Can you just excuse me for a moment? I left one of my papers in my office.
Sure.
Sorry.
Sure. Sure. Sabrina. Okay, so, oh no, Sabrina stepped out. Okay. Wait. We're on a pause for
There
just
it
a
is.
second. We have some copies being made. Larry did something similar. It sounds like that he's also going to hand out here.
I did too, but I don't know what it was. Well, I have it highlighted on here, so I guess I'll just.
I have-
So what I'd like to hope us to get
Fine.
to today, and again, we'll wait for Sabrina to come before I move forward, is
I'm sure it mostly does.
if we could get our projects down, I'm hoping to 4 million, preferably down to 3.3. I know that that's probably a pipe dream. Won't happen today. Didn't last year either. You know, next year is when, next month is when we have to really get down to that target. But the further away we are from that target, the harder it makes it next month. I'm hoping to get down at least to 4 million. Is that something we can agree to try to get to?
I guess what I'd prefer to do is just do one pass through and maybe some things we can kind of highlight that we all agree on them and some things.
Oh,
we can
sure.
Put an X in, some things can fall in the middle. And then with the ones we all agree on,
Yeah.
we can see where we're at and then we can work on those ones in the middle to add a few more. I feel like that's what kind of has worked the most
Okay.
time efficiently. Do you agree, Jared? You're like the capital
works for me.
improvement guru.
Well, if you just eliminate Jared's
Oh.
stuff, then we can make it.
Well, if we're all in agreement that this is a must fund, then, I mean, yeah, there's really no discussion. We just move that forward to common council. I agree. So,
Okay, so we better wait for Sabrina.
yeah, 100%. She's a voting member.
Okay. So,
It's all good. They copied off. Now I have. Was there any other items?
All right.
Still the same. Okay, and so again, when you see my bonded figures here, those are based off of the chart that I had as of 2 days ago when I put this together. So they may be different than the updated charts that are in our packet today. We'll have to check those as we go. You have yours in priority order at all?
Yeah. Mine's in priority. Number one is matches project one.
But that's only by department.
Right.
That would mean that all other departments are lower in priority on all of the projects.
No, it's just number wise, all the way down. And then at the very end, I got it broke down.
okay, I think we're ready to start
Okay,
now.
so-
If everyone's ready.
Okay, Mayor.
So maybe we'll just.
So-
Number here is my number here.
Right. But what I'm saying is, for just a second, Mayor, if we go all the way down in order of what it is on this list, what that would mean is Public Works will get all of their items until we reach that goal and then nobody else gets anything.
Well, we're just gonna go through and say which one of public works we want,
Okay.
which ones we don't. Correct?
Okay, so we'll have to work off the actual capital improvement projects for 2023
Yep.
list, which are numbered. So when we're talking about numbers, That's what we're gonna be talking.
Yeah, those are on my chart on,
You see your references.
Yep.
Do that.
Yep.
So I think the first thing we need to think about is if we're going just in order, items 1 through 7 under Public Works are all items that in some way, shape or form, we're already committed to. And that totals $934,000.
so that,
One also,
One,
no, one is pavement maintenance, that's 350. And then number 2 is the sidewalk program. And I've got 2 CB and A. I don't think we're committed to D, to 2D yet, are we?
We are not committed to 2D.
Yeah, so I did not have D funded under my list. I had 2 A, B, and C, since those are the ones we're committed to, which are 40, 40, and 125.
okay,
but what about number 1? I mean, it just says for maintenance, it doesn't.
It's an annual requirement. Yeah,
Is that annual, an average?
I did not hear which number you're, or which
one.
one. Yeah, pavement maintenance is our annual chip seal and crack filling program. That's the biggest benefit for the dollar that we spend in the whole city for anything.
Failing to
that-
do that would,
That's the reason, I feel that's the reason our streets are in the condition that they are. Because we've been aggressively maintaining them over the last 35 years.
Could that be reduced at all, or?
In my opinion, no. That would be my one, that's the best money we spend.
that's a preventative. Failing to do that fully any given year would have a certain amount of, mileage of streets that would start to deteriorate even faster.
Mhm.
So, is there anyone who would disagree that we should not, or that we should not be fully funding number 1? Okay, so number 1, we'll move forward for now. All right. Then number 2, can you talk to A, B, and C separate from D, please?
Item A is the annual sidewalk replacement programs. We go through 1/7 of the city each year. We do this for liability purposes. We've been keep maintaining our sidewalk system like this for over 20 years now. This is a needed program. It just keeps everything in line. Been, like I said, been doing it for over 20 years. Item B is 40,000 for miscellaneous repairs. This is where we fund things like a dipped curb, a sidewalk that the tree is heaving, just a handicap ramp that needs to be replaced, things like that. Item C is in the city park sidewalk ADA access. So this is to meet part of our ADA plan, which we are required to make progress on. So this is various areas within parks. We work on ADA access.
Is there anyone who thinks we should not fund 2A?
Is that an average year? That amount, or?
It's actually, we raised that from last year because our bid prices have went up 15%. So we actually were funding less than that, but we feel that's what we need to, until we do the inspections, we don't know for sure. But that's what we anticipate the next year will be.
Is there anyone who thinks we should not fund 2A? So 2A should move forward. Anyone who thinks we should not fund 2B? That can move forward. Anyone who thinks we should not fund 2C? That should move forward. Now speak to 2D, please.
2D is a sidewalk connection, currently between City of Onalaska and the Village of Holman. There's one missing sidewalk connection that would be along Sand Lake Road or East Avenue. There's sidewalk throughout the Village of Holman down to County Trunk Highway OT. This would be the last connection to along East Avenue that would then continue sidewalk all the way into the City of Onalaska. This was a request from a citizen traveling through that area. It was not funded last year, but there's no commitment to this project at this time yet.
So is there anyone who, yes, Mayor?
have you explored, I know at the last lacrosse area planning meeting, they said there was a lot of money available for projects that were ready to go for bike ped. Would this qualify for any of that?
If, in order to get the TAP funding, the transportation alternative funding that this would fall under, you'd have to have, as far as having it ready, means state plans are all ready to go. There's been no design work done. And this is gonna, if we involve that funding, then we're going to buy right away behind the, or buy temporary easements behind the right of way, and that's gonna take probably another year onto it, so.
Is there anyone who does not want to fund 2D?
I don't.
I do not either. This is, in my mind, a want and not a need. It's not a replacement. It's not a repair. There is currently no sidewalk there. And I think that when you look at the cost of $145,000, it's going to be very difficult to get down to that goal of 3.25, 3.3 as it is. I think there's going to be higher priority projects. That's my view.
I agree.
Mayor?
We can pass on it for now. Okay, with moving forward with it off.
Okay. Next is item number 4, intersection improvements, but it looks like that is all being paid for by other.
3.
Number 3.
I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, I skipped it. I'm sorry. The design of number 3. Is there anyone who, okay, go ahead.
No, this includes grant funding, so this would be the design, and we have anticipated an 80-20 split on the grant funding for the construction.
So it's a really good deal for us is the bottom line. Is there anyone? Yeah.
75 is our portion of it.
We have to, the design is all local. The construction will be, we will have grant funding for the construction.
Okay.
Is there anyone who does not believe we should fund a 3A? All right, 3A is good to go. And then 3B would be on the out years. So that went to be a 2023 project, correct?
Correct.
All right. Next is item number 4. Looks like we have that as being funded through other means. Correct?
4C is the construction of 74,000. This would be our match for the grant for the East Avenue Riders Club.
Oh, yeah, there's,
roundabout.
yeah.
So
Oh,
we are committed to this project. It's actually going out to PS&E very soon, and we'll be moving forward to that project.
yeah, it's just A and B. All right, C is 74,000. Is there anyone who thinks that we should not do 4C?
So 4A and B are already through.
They're
They've already been funded.
funded
Oh,
through other means, yes, yeah, so. All right, so next is item number 5.
Steve, can you go back a second? So what is the 4C?
4C, 74,000. It's complicated. I've had to redo my own charts over and over, so, yeah. Item number 5, Midwest Drive to East Main Street, 400 foot east of Theater Road, including road base. Looks like those are funded through other means as well.
The design has already been funded through our capital improvements program, and the construction will not be till 2024. So we'll bring forward a construction number next year. So there's no
So there-
impact to amount needed for borrowing for 2023.
Roger that. Item number 6, Main Street, Wisconsin DOT project. So again, this is got funds coming in. Design cost for us for 2023 is 25,000. Does anyone think we should not do that? That moves forward. Item number 7, Theater Road, PH intersection roundabout design. Now, again, there are some funds committed to coming in from outside sources on this one too, right?
Correct. So for construction, we received local road improvement funding. That will be for construction. We have already funded the design through previous bonding. We are looking at the right-of-way cost of 60,000 for 2023.
Is there anyone who thinks we should not do 7B? That moves forward. All right. Street paving, Ironwood Place and Cooley Court. This is number 8, a PASER rating of 2.5. That is $109,000. Go ahead.
So going into the street paving, just my annual talk about street paving. We get about, we get 45 years out of a street, which we're very fortunate due to the pavement maintenance and things we do to our streets. You know, you should be doing about 2 miles of streets a year. With our streets in the condition that they are in, we are fortunate that we have not included a lot of street projects within the capital improvements budget for 2023. Between the utility projects and the street projects, if we did them all, we'd have about 2 miles, but we understand that that's not going to happen. And with that, I would say that of the street paving, I know the number 9 is more, but I would say if I was going to prioritize street paving, number 9 would be the priority of 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, so the Mayor, go ahead.
And what I would suggest is with items 8 through 12, that we put those in the maybe category. We know that we want to do 1 or 2 of these projects, but we do a first pass through and we see where we're at with the things that what we know we really want to have. And that will help us make a better choice here based on how much, where we're at with how much we've already committed in other places.
Okay, I understand that. But my concern is that will put paving projects in a bind because we almost certainly will be over if we go through all of these with what everyone wants, and then suddenly we have paving, which are the more expensive projects. So I almost at least take an initial swag on what we think are more important to fund here. And there's a couple things at play. Obviously, the Paisley rating, the lower the Paisley rating, the worse the road is. But there's also the bang for the buck, because as Jared said, he wants to get mileage as well in order to maintain with his strategic plan. In the case of Ironwood Place, it's 1/8 of a mile. And we drove that today actually, and it was still serviceable. I'm actually arguing that we might not consider that as high of a priority as some others, such as Gunther Estates. And then there's one that has a Paisley rating of 2.0, which is
Yeah, but it's not-
number 12. I mean, and we drove that one today, and that one is, that road is failing. Flat out, it's failing if you were to drive on that road. So
That's the one at 9:15
at 9:15,
or 9:19,
I don't
19.
know what that,
919,000.
yes.
Yeah.
The 919, it's a very expensive one, but that road is failing. I almost think that, I mean, I have that as my priority number 3 overall amongst the entire city capital improvements budget. I really think that we have to commit to that 919 when we move forward on this.
Right, which is exactly the reason I don't want to move forward with a different one, not knowing where we're coming out with our priorities. I mean, maybe-
But how is this different than any of the other projects?
Unless you put 12 as an A or something like that, top of the list.
Okay,
If
I'm
we go
willing-
through everything else and
okay,
then
I'm
come
willing
back,
to agree that item 8 can wait. I don't think it's really, I mean, it does need to be repaved. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it also isn't a road that gets a lot of traffic. So I'm okay. I think that one, we should still have it on the list for next year, but we should forego that project.
I agree.
I agree.
9 and 10 and 11, the same thing.
Oh, well, I don't know
Wouldn't go so far as to say that.
either. Can we discuss number 12 and then we go back? I think we should handle all these together, just the pavings. Again, on the tour, that road flat out is failing, folks. That Paisley raising a 2.0 is the lowest I've seen in the budgets that have come before me.
I will say I was surprised at the tour today that I saw grass growing into one section of the street,
Yeah, it's not good.
but it is a very expensive project because we're
Includes
placing the water and
utilities.
sewer utilities underneath it.
Yeah, that-
And with our, the recent, the estimates that the engineering department has provided and prepared, it's been a very volatile year. We're not getting the amount of infrastructure for the funding we were getting 2 years ago. So those estimates were actually changed 3 times since Christmas, and not in a good way. They went
Yeah.
up every time. So it's just a tough.
How old was the utilities underneath there too?
Utilities are installed in probably, it was either 50 or 52. They're 70 years old. Now some utilities you should be able to, we try to get 100-year service life out of them, but those utilities just aren't lasting in that area.
I
I just have a further question about the fund balances for the sanitary sewer, the water, the storm sewer. Like, where are we at with that? I don't want to raise rates again unnecessarily. Where are we in our cycle of spending and saving?
So I'll start this, but we did have the mortgage revenue bond back in 2018 where we funded a lot of water and sewer and stormwater projects. We replaced the 6 in Quincy lift station. We installed the new Crestwood booster station. We did the Greens Coulee Reservoir. We did multiple projects such as over by the Blue Moon. Abbey Road was part of that. So we did make headway with that mortgage revenue bond. But I would say currently we would probably wait. It would be up to our finance director, but we're probably a few years from doing another mortgage revenue bond, just with we should have another one coming off. I think she's looking it up right now to see the debt service, but there should be a 2007, 2008 mortgage revenue bond that at some point is going to fall off our debt service. But the thing to understand too about the capital improvements budget is anything you bond in water and sewer or stormwater, the utilities pay that debt service. Because this is all general obligation debt, it goes against the city's debt service fund, but the general fund does not actually pay the debt. The utilities will pay the debt. So that's one of the things over the last 5 years with the mortgage revenue bond, we've been borrowing quite a bit of general obligation debt that's actually general fund. So I don't know if that got you
That's
to
why I'm
where
asking
that's
the
kind of
question, like, is
you're-
it a good time to spend or is it a good time
Yeah.
to save when it comes to these funds? So maybe Sabrina could say that.
1 second, sorry.
I will say we are looking at the utilities, like there's a project in here to update our water system model and water plan that's required by the DNR. Had last done in 2012, so it's going to be over 10 years by the time we do it next year. It's required to be done approximately every 10 years. We have that being funded by the water utility, not coming out of the borrowing. We do have a design of a lift station at Franklin Street. We did the same thing. We have the utility paying for that instead of borrowing for that. So we have been trying to be creative in looking at the utilities to pay for some of these things when we're going through the list. And we also have looked at previous capital projects that we've had and looked at where some of the funding, if we saved in those projects like Greens Coulee, the roundabout, but the roundabout paid for a lot of that design that you see already bonded in our capital improvements list for those state funded grant projects. So a lot of that was used up there. We always like to keep some amount back to have monies for unexpected projects or cost overruns if we would have them, things like that.
Okay, so with that being said, I think regarding items 8 through 12, unless Sabrina wants to talk now.
I can just add, for the mortgage revenue bonds, the 2015 issue, the maturity for that is 2027. So still a few years out for that. And we do have a 2016 issue that the date of maturity is 2035, and then the 2019 is 2039. As we get closer to that date of maturity for the mortgage revenue bond, I'd be okay going out for that again. But with that still being 5 years, 4 or 5 years down the road, I'd like to wait another year or two for mortgage revenue. In regards to the fund balance for the water that's unrestricted is just over $1 million. 1 second, different page. Unrestricted, 1,726,000 for water, 1.6 million for sewer, and then storms at 515,000.
And part of that too, with the mortgage revenue bonding, we've got bond covenants that say we've got to have a minimum that's like 425,000 for debt service. So those things factor into it too. And that sounds like a lot of money in those utilities, but that if something happens catastrophically to a facility, it doesn't take long to use that money for repairs or emergencies.
Okay, so if Aldernot is determined to move forward with one, then my position then at this point would be 9, I guess, which I think agrees with Jared.
Well, I've got actually 2 that I think we should move forward on. I had both 9 and 12, but I think 12 is the more important one. You got 70-year-old utilities and a road that has to be reconstructed. And if we're gonna go back 5 years from now to replace the utilities, they're gonna have to tear up that road. And if they reconstruct it now, in 5 years, they'll be tearing up brand new surface in order to put the utilities in. So, so we have with number 12, it's a 1/4 mile long, but it's 70-year-old utilities and a road that is flat out disintegrating right now. I just don't know how we can,
What about 11? Is 11 the same thing?
it's not as.
If
As Utilities.
If I may recommend kind of on the mayor's theory of moving forward here, we leave 9 and 12 in for now, because I think those are probably the 2 most pressing.
I agree with that.
If I had to prioritize, I guess, and see where we come back through the second time. I really feel one of the things we've done with the capital improvements budget over the years too is we've invested in our older parts of the city. If you look at the areas in the south end of the city, the streets have all been redone over the years, and it really helps our neighborhoods stay up to date too.
I actually had both of those above my line too. So, I mean, I'm in agreement with Jared on that, but
Okay, so I agree to number 9, but I'm only up to a maybe on 12. Because that would already allow, I mean, we'd be spending almost up to this point of our discussion. We've already allocated almost $2 million just to our streets. And I know our streets are important and I care about them, but there are other parts of our city that we need to touch as well.
And that's where I think trying to get down to a number tonight of being down to, I mean, we just want to get down to where we've got.
I'd like to get down to 4 million.
Well, I would disagree. I would say it should be at 5 million, because then it leaves you discussion to go over those projects and make those hard decisions at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't think we have to have a number. I think we just need to get through the budget once and then. Okay, so 9 is a yes, 10 is a no, 11 is a no, and 12, we're gonna say yes for now, but with the understanding it's a maybe.
12A.
And we are at 2,057,000. So you know where we're at.
And I would agree that this is the first pass, so.
Okay. All right, number 13, South 16th off-street path. This is the West Salem connector right of way for 50,000. It's to connect us with West Salem on bike and hike, if you will. I know West Salem is moving forward on their part, if I recall, right?
The county is putting in the off-street path from South Kinney up to the landfill, which will connect then from the city of La Crosse up to West Salem. This will be the last piece between South Kinney and Dick's Sporting Goods. This would be the city portion. This is for the right of way.
Not the construction.
Any funds that we would not, if we do not expend all the right of way funds, it would go toward future construction.
Is there anyone who thinks we should not fund the right of way for that?
50.
50,000.
I feel we're already committed to that.
Yeah, I kind of do too. That's 13. We have that. There it is.
70.
Okay, next is 14 more street paving. This is a Pazer 3.0, which actually means it's not near disintegration yet. Is there anyone who thinks we should include that this year?
I will say that we did receive some municipal street improvement program funding, as you can see in your project list tonight. So that did cut the project in half, but this project will not sunset next year.
Okay. So nobody wants to include that?
Can I-
Yes, Sabrina.
Jared, I should have asked you this before, but the MSIP money, does that go away if we don't use it this year?
We do have we just received that funding, so we do have a few years of window to expend it.
Okay. So if we moved it to next year, you could expend it.
It would be fine. It would meet the rules of the grant.
Okay. And then number 15 is the salt brine upgrade blending unit. You want to fund that? Mayor?
I would say no unless Jared really pitches it.
No, it's, we're using more and more salt brine, but this could wait, obviously wait a year.
Okay, yeah, it is no also. Cemetery utility vehicle. Now we can use ARPA on this. This is where we get into the same discussion we had before. So we're talking bonding and we're trying to get it down. We, well, in this case, we can't bond this anyway. This would definitely have to come through something other than a 20-year bond. I actually have it as not being funded this year anyway. Is there anyone here who wants to fund it this year?
Well, this is a full vehicle. It's just a
It's utility vehicle.
utility.
Correct. Currently, the utility vehicle we have was, yeah, it's a John Deere Gator, but it's a hand-me-down from the parks probably 12 years ago, Dan. Which is a hand-me-down from the fire department. So that Gator, Troy, when did you, that Gator's got to be 25 years old.
Do you use it for plowing the sidewalks as well?
No, this is just used in the cemetery, but it's used every day in the cemetery.
Still,
Everything with that.
I mean, I have no problem approving it so long as our recommendation to common council goes forward as that comes from ARPA. I don't want to take away from the bonding. I have other things that are higher priority.
I guess for me, I think it would be okay to keep it as a maybe, but especially if it's that old. I mean,
What was that? I'm sorry?
I said, for me, I think we keep it as a maybe since the vehicle is that old.
Did you guys see it on the tour today?
No.
But if it's 25 years old, I mean, my
Yeah.
parents have Gators and they're not nowhere near that old and
And we're not assigning funding right now. So how about we'll leave it in for now? And then if Stephen wants to take it out later or any of us will.
Okay. Can we just mark that as getting additional separate?
Right now, we'll
funds?
just say it's in.
Yep. Okay. I just put a star by it.
Number 17, we're using money that's already been bonded. Number 18, as I stated, we're using water utility funds to pay for the citywide water system modeling. Number 19, the wheel loader, we're using funds that have already been bonded. So that would move us up to item 20.
Beverly Drive storm sewer outfall repairs pipe replacement. It's a new addition. I have that as not being funded this year. Is there anyone who thinks it should be?
Well, is that one of the ones, since it's coming from the storm sewer, Jared, that's a priority?
I would say, we've got the older pipe this is an older pipe that was when the subdivision went in that was existing. So I think that could wait a year if we need to.
Number 21
So do you-
and all the way through 20. And 21 is the tandem axle cab and chassis. New. Now, again, I think we need to get it, but I have it again under ARPA money. This could be bonded, is my understanding as well. This could be either.
this could be bonded for.
Yeah, so by using the 100K from ARPA, it opened up some more 20-year bonds is what it amounted to with me. But I do have it that we should get this because you're looking at a 2-year delay on being able to get the vehicle.
Jared, can you describe the
Yeah,
urgency?
so we would not have had this in this year's capital improvement budget. We were not slated to get another vehicle in our fleet and the Public Works dump truck fleet until 2024. But we just ordered through the 2022 capital improvement process, we ordered a cab and chassis for a similar, the exact same vehicle, basically. In January of 22, they stated in their bid it would be delivered sometime in the first or second quarter of 23. And we've found out 2 months ago, it got scheduled to be built December of 23. So it's going to take 2 years just to get the cab and chassis. So
Let's leave it in for now then.
Yeah, and that goes along with 24. We're skipping 23 here. I mean, that's a set, right? I mean, they have to be viewed together. The bucket boom truck?
No, that's.
no, those are two
Two
two separate things.
They are, okay, I'm my bad. I misunderstood that. So which is the more important one for you? If you had to choose? Personally, I would like to see us get both, but. you know.
Well, the bucket truck we have is, once again, we try to be frugal. We bought it, this 100,000 is for a newer used bucket truck. The bucket truck we have now, we bought used, once again, probably 12 years ago, and it was 10 years old when we bought it. The bucket truck is having issues with just, it's getting old. Once in a while, we're putting up Christmas decorations and it just stops working. So then we gotta use the emergency release and the hydraulics to get people down.
Something that you use it infrequently enough that if it really like came to its end, you could rent or lease one through the end of the
We
year.
could look into those options. Years ago, before we had this, we used to hire an electrician to do a lot of these things, but we really save operational costs by having our own unit. It doesn't go out every day, but the days that you wanna change a light bulb at a traffic signal or something, it's one of the things, or putting up Christmas decorations for 3 days in a row, or the city Christmas tree at Dash Park. Those are things that you just,
Yeah, I like
Jared,
to
were
see.
you able to find out any information on that? What I gave you?
I have not gotten any information back yet.
Let's leave both of the vehicles in for now.
I
if you
agree.
guys are okay with
And we
it.
can talk
always
about how to
take-
fund them. Again, I'd like to see both of those on.
Or take them out.
Or take them out, yep.
It's 24.
Yeah, 24, 21. And again, we skipped
Me too.
20. No,
Traffic
Yep.
signal.
we skipped 22 and 23. Yeah. All right, so 22, upgrade add emergency traffic. Now what this does is, let's see if I get this right on my notes. I believe this is where it's for the fire department to be able to, allows traffic signal control both directions.
So the fire department requested additional preemption, which is an Opticon unit to be installed at intersections. Currently, we have them where they're going out from the fire department. They're getting more and more calls, double calls. They're getting a call when they're out on a call. So they're having to come back into that, and there's no preemption on the traffic signals. So this would add that at some of those key intersections.
This really comes under public safety, I would argue, big time. So it's a small dollar item. I think we should keep that in. Anyone disagree? Okay. And then the street reconstruction, 6th Avenue North, that's a Pazer of 3.5. I personally can't justify spending this year that sum of money on a road that's actually still fairly serviceable.
Reason that project is one of the main reasons is it has a 4-inch water main, and the Wisconsin DNR through our triennial water review sanitary survey, it's called, has stated that we should be trying to replace 4-inch water mains. We have done a good job in the city over the previous 25 years doing this. This is one of the last streets that has them. So I do not have a problem. I would prioritize other streets over this one.
Would you prioritize that over number 12?
I'd prioritize 5th Avenue, which is number 12, over this project.
Thank you.
Okay. 24 is done. 25, sanitary sewer camera. We've had a lot of discussions on this and several councils, actually.
I feel like it was 80,000 last year.
It was.
I have it on mine to keep it, but again, I have it under ARPA funding. So again, for me to support it, it's kind of contingent, but for now I'd keep it in. Does anyone disagree?
How much did we spend last year having the guy come in?
Having our contracted work done,
Yeah.
24,000.
Yeah, $24,000 a year. 5-year return on investment. There's a 5-year return on investment of this if we purchase it.
I would also state though, we've got a staff time that would have to come off that, so it's gonna be a little longer than that, but you are correct that it would save us on.
Yeah, but staff are
Operation.
paying for already, so
Correct.
it's just, you're having to reallocate them to this instead of something else, but it's not a true cost.
Is there still, you still have a contracted personnel who are available and easy? Because I mean, that's one of the things nowadays is sometimes you need work done, but you can't find a person, but you do have a person.
We are fortunate that we have a local contractor in just 20 minutes away that is very responsive and has multiple units. So they've been very good to work with over the years. So we are fortunate we have a local contractor currently.
Yeah, and we're kind of joking around about it, but this is like, I think this is I mean, to have the capability to do this is a critical need. I think it's just that we're just looking to try to find a different way to do it if possible.
So
I would say to let it go another year. It can be 125 next year.
you want to delay it.
I do.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, since we've got a contractor that's so close and readily available, I can.
But it would only have a 4-year ROI.
What? 5-year return on investment. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's important to me. And the bottom line is contraction's cheaper. Why would we buy our own? But in this case, it's cheaper for us to buy our own.
So, I mean, it's
I
a
keep it
committee,
in.
it's a consensus. We have 5 people on the committee. I'm only one person. Yes.
Well, I know what Jared's gonna say. He's gonna want it.
You don't know what.
Well, I mean, there's going to be tough choices made eventually here. And, eventually we're going to get down to, the benefit of having the camera, in my mind, the large benefit is during an emergency, you have it with staff trained how to use it and you can go out and get that work done. That's the largest benefit.
Jared, is this one of those things that be years out before we can get it or fairly easy to get?
Talking to staff, I think it would be fairly easy to get it. I would guess we'd have it within a few months.
Sabrina, what do you think?
I guess I'm okay with keeping it on the maybe list.
Say it again.
I'm okay keeping it on for now as a
Keep it on
maybe
for now?
list.
Larry?
Yep.
On,
Yeah, well, then let's leave it on and get moving.
Okay.
Can always take it off next time, or maybe it makes it.
All right.
26.
Number 26, cemetery improvements, phase 1, columbarium and remove Hickory Street. This is the design only. Construction would be in an out year, $45,000. Is there anyone who does not think we should fund the design this year?
Okay, I think we should, but I think that this does include the phase 1 construction. Maybe Jared should speak. to
Yeah, so this would include the phase 1 columbarium construction. This would be the money to design that so we could have it ready for bid. And then as part of that, we'd probably have the city forces come in and city staff remove the street when we get ready for construction. So the construction of 250,000 would be for a columbarium to get the area paved and get the columbarium itself put in and get the actual columbarium installed.
So you're looking at doing both?
Well, I mean, in 23, we would be, depending on how we fund this, the design and how fast we move in the design, it would be difficult to get it built in 23. We could probably do it by the end of the year if we proceed with the design during the winter.
And I was thinking that we would vacate the street like at the end of the year, 2023.
As far as removing the street, or
Yeah.
we could do that. Yeah, we could get it ready and get it, seated down. We could start some of that work in-house.
Because I guess the way I'm looking at it is if we do the design this year, it's for 2023, it's probably very unlikely we're gonna get the construction done in 2023. I'm thinking that would be a 2024 item.
I would agree with that.
Okay. I'm fine
So
with
just
that.
A,
Just yeah. 26
I
A.
think I also want to just state for the record, we did have some public input at the beginning of our meeting, and this is calling our concept plan for the library, for the cemetery expansion calls for a columbarium,
Not a-
which is a in-ground burial of ashes, not a mausoleum, which is an above. Okay, Jared can speak to this.
So the columbarium is an above ground
What is, okay.
interment of ashes. A mausoleum is above ground, but it's more of a room. It's more of a building. Where a columbarium is an outside structure that has a niche and it's got a door on that niche, and then you would put the ashes inside the niche and then lock it shut. It'd be sealed.
Kind of like
Okay,
a big wall.
I had envisioned it
Yeah.
being in the ground. Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Okay,
Correct. A mausoleum would be much, much more expensive.
So I just wanted to have that in the record.
so we're
Yeah.
we're in agreement 26A, not 26B.
It's fine.
I was just
Sabrina.
confirming that. I just wanted to confirm that we're just keeping the design on.
Just the design, yes. Okay, similar with 27, the Franklin Street Lift Station design. Construction would be on 2024, but we have other sources paying for that, correct?
Sanitary sewer utility would pay for the design of that project.
Okay. And then 28 is the downtown street lamp replacement. That's this carryover both from 21 and then again from 22, so we're into 23. I had it above my line as getting paid for this time. And again, who disagrees?
Gotta get more information on it.
But
The street lamps, the original 1999 street lamps installed along Main Street are still incandescent lights. They're not LEDs, so this would change them out to LEDs. So we had less power usage. It would, we didn't run the rate of return on it, exactly, but it's not like a 3-year rate of return.
Oh.
It's going to take many years to get that paid for. I will say in 2021, I think when we started this, it was like 51,000. So these are fixtures that just keep going up every year too, but
The architectural design of the posts aren't gonna change at all.
no, you're not going to know it. We're going to open the lid, take the ballast and the fixture out and
Okay.
insert new,
they'll be noticeably brighter though, won't they?
yeah, they'll be a different color and brighter. Yeah.
Does anyone not want to fund it? Okay, so we'll leave it in for now again. What's that?
7 we left in.
Left in?
Oh, well, left in, but it's funded through other sources, so it's not funded. I
Okay,
mean, what the figures were rolling up, if you will, that Sabrina keeps calculator on. That's for bond, and that's where this, 3.25, 3.3 is what we're hoping to get to at some point.
so 27 is not being bonded.
It is not being bonded, but it is being funded just through other sources. Yeah. Okay, 29, street reconstruction, Prairie Road, 290,000, Jared.
This is we had a developer come in and was looking at developing some property, annexing it along Prowley Road. That never came to being. So I would say that project can wait. Does not need to be done next year.
Anyone disagree with them?
These are was.
Okay. 30, speed limit signage.
Along Double S, in La Crosse Business Park, Enterprise Avenue, the speed limit is 35. City of Onalaska area is 25. I get multiple calls from multiple residents along that street that the speed is excessive out there. So we're looking at putting in a permanent radar speed limit sign like you see by the Sunfish at Double S when you come out of the La Crosse area.
So anyone,
Chief, how effective are those signs? I said, how effective are those radar signs?
The permanent speed radars signs.
Yeah, well, when you go through your own car.
unmarked. Amanda,
I guess off of that, I would, my concern would be that we're still facing a speed change. So even if we put in a speed sign that says 25, the people driving this road know that it's going immediately after this sign to 35. And so I don't know that it's going to have the impact that the residents want it to have.
Just so you don't go put speed bumps like PH.
No speed bumps.
That street. My mother lives on it.
Yes, I'm,
Was it your proposal, Jared? Do you want to stick up for it or?
Well, I know I'm actually would guess if it gets deleted that people will be in force during public comment. They're very vocal.
County Road SS people?
Yeah.
I did not know that, but I actually did have it in my approval on my list.
Well, and I used to live on County Road SS and we had when my kids were still in school, we had a terrible problem with people speeding up and they would go past, the bus would literally be stopped with its lights on and they would still just go around the bus. I mean, so there is traffic issues there and there is like at weird times, there's a lot of traffic there. So, I mean, it might be worth $12,000 to try something.
Sure, and we can always do targeted enforcement on it. Yep, the chief's going north-south on the nod. It's a small dollar item. It's public safety. I didn't know about the school bus issue either. And having had a friend's son hit coming off a school bus at one point, that hits home from somebody who ignored it and sped around. Yeah. I have no problem leaving it in. I have it on my above the line.
Could that be through ARPA funds?
Could that be ARPA?
It could be.
Okay, we'll have to
Let's
figure.
leave it in for now then.
So I'll put question mark there too. Okay. All right. Okay. Page. We're on to 31.
Electric cars.
Electric cars.
So we've, the DOT had a grant opportunity. They rescinded it. We're going to be reapplying again. They didn't get the proper authorizations. The Wisconsin DOT didn't. So we're going to be reapplying again. Hopefully that this fall, they're going to bring out this grant program again. So as you can see, we'd be receiving some grant funding towards this. For the vehicles, we had originally applied for a car and a van as part of this. So, you know, I feel this would be a good test of an electric vehicle for the city. We do have included within that grant amount and the funding amount, charger to be able to charge one of them at the Public Works facility and one of them at City Hall.
And I can attest that there is a lot of grant money available to municipalities for this type of investment. And so I think it would be a good idea to keep it on, at least for now.
How long do the batteries last on these?
We will have, if you're just looking at the city's cost, we will have gotten our value out of it before when the battery is no longer serviceable.
Batteries will be no longer serviceable long before the vehicle is no longer serviceable. And we'll have to replace all of them if we're going to keep that vehicle, even though it's serviceable, the batteries won't be. And those will be many thousands of dollars, just so we understand that. When we see the cost, there's going to be a deferred cost to replace all those batteries. You know, those are, in all honesty, those are coal-powered cars. They're plugging into a grid. That's how they get their energy. They don't get it from the sun or, you know, from magic. I personally am opposed to them, but of course I think that battery powered cars are a proven loser and they're economically disastrous to landfills and what have you too. The cost of those batteries are going to go sky high because of 2 states now that are saying that they're going to force their very large state populations, New York and California, into buying electric cars. And those batteries are made with a substantial amount of rare minerals that are not going to increase. And if we increase the demand on a limited supply that are used to build those batteries, when it comes to replacement, are going to be far higher than what they are even now. So, I mean, I'm willing to listen to the whole board and we can make a decision whether or not to keep it in or not, but I am adamantly opposed to them myself.
So the price on that is what, 128?
41,920.
So I got here, 41.
128,000 of which 86,000, just over 86,000 is a grant and almost 42,000 would be.
That's the
city.
grant we lost. You'll have to reapply for.
Yeah, we would not move forward without the grant.
You said 41,000 for 2 vehicles?
2 vehicles, yeah,
Or it's 41.
42,000, yeah.
So Sabrina, what do you think?
I like the idea of testing out an electric vehicle to see if it will work for city purposes. I think it's a good opportunity to do this when there's grant funding available. Again, I wouldn't want to do it if there wasn't grant funding
I
available.
don't want to do it if there's not a grant either.
Um,
And these ARPA could be used for this too.
Correct. I think it would be a good use of ARPA funds. But my thoughts.
So Mayor, you're a yes?
Yeah, if I would leave it in, at least for now, as with the
Okay.
contingency that we would only do it if the grant covered more than 50% of the cost.
You know, on the record, I'm definitely a no, but we'll be leaving it in. Okay, so 31 is 1 second.
Additional
Vehicles.
funding.
We can take some, I mean, if we have mixed reviews, we can take some of them out later.
It's 31 over here. And that is 41,920. Okay, number 32. Directory room signage, city buildings new for 50K.
So especially in City Hall, a lot of the original directory signage was put in to be actual names instead of slots. So a lot of the titles have changed. People have moved different offices. A lot of the signage is in need of repair. We don't really have it on here listed ADA, but this is part of the ADA plan as far as trying to make sure that we can get people around the building. So I said offer it for,
Only ADA signage would be where the elevator is.
Our original signage includes Braille,
yeah.
and much of it is inaccurate at this time. And so for those people that would have visual needs, we are providing incorrect information and not providing accurate signage. So I think it is an important ADA thing. The timing also is well with our branding wrapping up and that looking at kind of updating that, it would be a good time to tie that into the new logo and color scheme that we will be looking
Well.
at the end of the year.
And we could do that at any time. So you're saying the Braille that's on them right now, you said is outdated?
No, so our signs are wrong because they were not meant to be flexible when they were put in. And so basically every room was named. And so we've moved so many departments around and we've moved so many people around City Hall that, you know, for instance, Sabrina's office may say that she is the mayor and it says in Braille that she's the mayor. And so if you have somebody who has visual needs and they're using Braille throughout, they're being communicated inaccurate information.
So is there going to be funding then for every year maintenance changing the signs because people are moving all over the place?
Well, that's where we don't need to sign to the level we're signing, and we'll have to figure out that balance of what should be Braille and what shouldn't be. But we should not have permanent signs on offices. So we should be able to change those as we move people around the city. And so we need better signage.
Like at one point Jared was the engineer and now he's the public works director
All right.
I could live with that.
or something.
Well, our IT person, it's his says engineer too.
Okay, so is the entire building wrong? I'm wondering if we can do a partial on this. $50,000 for Signage, that's a lot of money just for signage. Is there any way we can do a partial on this? Or some of these accurate now in the building?
I mean, you could do it like you
Ties
do
back
with
to
the,
the rebranding too, and then it,
Yeah, but we could do that over years. I mean, I agree with you, Mayor, I really do, but I mean, signage is, I guess, to a degree necessary, but boy, there's other projects that are real need. If there's some of the signs that are currently accurate, can we do a partial this year and finish it off next year?
I think it would look, I mean, as long as we're committed to finishing it off. I mean, because our signage is it's outdated, it's faded, and then you're gonna have, it's not going to look the same. So you're gonna have
Right.
half the signs in City Hall look, one way and half of them look another. And so just from a directory standpoint, if you come in and you even look at the directory, it's telling you, that human resources is on the first floor and inspection is on the second floor, and that our assessor has an office and they don't have an office. And so I think it would be hard to do it in bits and pieces.
maybe you could do City Hall, but not police and fire and not
Yeah.
public works.
We could start that way. I mean, we could start just doing the core of City Hall.
Just do this part of the building and then next year do public works and then the year after do police and fire.
No, it's just.
And then the signs
prices
won't
or-
match properly. There'll be different fonts or colors or something.
Well, yes, Sabrina.
I'd feel comfortable moving this to the equipment replacement fund, if others feel comfortable with that. 'Cause it really is replacing, our signage.
Well, that was gonna be one of my questions is like, what type of bonding does it even qualify?
It wouldn't.
Yeah, so
So I'd feel comfortable moving it to equipment replacement instead of using ARPA or any type of bonding, or short-term borrowing, if everyone else feels comfortable with that.
I'm good with that.
Do we have any actual bids on it or anything? Or is this just a shot in the dark? That
we have not gotten any actual bids, but I've dealt with signage at the different city buildings, especially the library and some different ones. And you'd think signage it looks like it's inexpensive. It's not inexpensive.
A lot of signage over the years too. It's
It's,
shocking.
yeah.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah. Does anyone have any problem with Sabrina's suggestion?
I like it.
All right. So let's move on then. Water main connection, Abbey Road Apartments and LB White. Do not have that on my above the line. Is there anyone here who wants to argue it should be?
So
Jared,
this would be a water main connection from the Abbey Road Apartments to LB White through an easement that we have, the city has. This would be to improve fire flow and just connectivity, water quality and stuff, but this is one that there's not any set date that it would have to be done next year, so I think this could probably be deferred a year.
okay, great. Number 34, South 16 entrance sign, brick repair. I know we punted this last year. I'm recommending we punt it again. I mean, there's just things that are so much more important than that to me. I don't know.
So much more important than the first thing people see when they're entering our city.
Yeah, but from the road, it looks fine.
Yeah, I drove out there the other day. From the backside, you can't see anything wrong with it. I didn't walk around to the front because.
Front or back, you
it's all the
can't.
way around there.
You can't see from the road. You have to get up on it to see that there's some masonry issues, that's all.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, Mayor, obviously you disagree on that.
No, I just want to give you a hard time.
Okay. Is there anyone who thinks that we should be funding that this year? Okay, next. Another street paving, Pinecrest. Jared,
This one, I thought we had the Paisley rating to it, but this is a 3. This could be bid as an alternate with one of the other projects or something. We can forego this one for a year,
okay, thank
in
you.
my opinion.
I don't want you to tear up my street.
And then number 36. All the only items on here are other sources. Nothing would require bonding, correct?
Correct. This would be funded by the TID number 6. when monies become available. I wanted to show them as projects. These Public Works Department is not anticipating most likely having the TID funds available and doing these projects probably till 2024. But we wanted to show them in 2023, depending on how much money, we didn't know at the time how much money was gonna come into TID.
Okay, but nothing requires bonding.
Correct.
Does anyone have any discussion? Okay. Next is Planning Department.
Okay, hold the phone a sec.
Okay.
Can you give us now we just finished only Public Works.
So we're at $2,603,920.
I think we're actually sitting pretty good because they have the big dollar items.
2 million what?
$2,603,920. Kevin, do you have the same number?
No.
Oh.
Well, I guess I'm only tracking ones that were agreed upon
Okay,
on that page and none of the maybes.
okay. I'm including,
So
I'm
only
including
doing-
the
I'm only
names.
doing the ones where there was more sort of agreement. I'm not tracking the total.
Yeah,
Sabrina was.
I put everything down. If it's maybe, I
It was
left
a
it on.
maybe. I put it in for now.
Yeah, I could run the numbers.
Yeah, I can also, but bottom line is, we'll keep going forward. I honestly think we're doing pretty good. All right, so Planning Department, yeah, I already know on my own list, I'm missing something. Katie informed me that there's an item on here I didn't have on my list that we actually have to do. She'll be letting me know that. So, number 37, urban forestry. I do have that above the line. Is there anyone here who does not want to fund that next year? Doesn't want to bond for it?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Katie, what's the difference between 37 and 40?
Go ahead.
So 37 is where we get citizen requests for tree planting. We also manage stump grinding, ones that we find. So that's a program where a citizen can request a tree and the city will fully fund the installation of a tree on their behalf at no cost to the citizen. So every year we're generating a list and we tell folks that provided it gets funded, we plant those around Memorial Day.
The city right away.
In the city right away. Pertaining specifically to item 40, correct? This is the urban forestry re-inventory. This is the resolution that went through last month's Board of Public Works and Common Council. The city is requesting, we have a bid for, a quote for approximately $53,000 to re-inventory every tree in the city boulevards and on city parks, which is counting at just over 7,600 trees. The last time the inventory was updated was in 2017, and we've done notable amounts of plantings and replantings, and also with changeover of city staff. We want to make sure that the inventory that we're providing is accurate. That data is also pushed out on our city webpage specific to urban forestry, so residents can search their addresses and they can look at what trees are in their neighborhood. So it's also a public education tool. The DNR, if funded, will provide the city with $25,000 to cost share that. If we are not successful for the grant, we can absolutely take this off for next year.
Can you talk about the importance of the comprehensive plan update? Number 39.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Last year, I had acknowledged that if we could push this to 2023 instead of 2022. Every 20 years, the city is required to have a 20-year plan. This plan focuses on land use, transportation, housing, community facilities, pretty much everything that goes on in this community from all of the city departments pulls into this particular plan. The city is required by statute to update this plan every 10 years. We last completed it in 2015. It takes about an average of 18 months to 2 years to actually complete the full plan. The very first phase we actually just kicked off today is a community survey that is going to be mailed out to all residents. as well as postcards and social media blasts, trying to get as much feedback as we can on a lot of the issues that are going to be addressed in the comprehensive plan. So we are due to update our plan start to finish. And we're going to try and be really creative with the dollars if allocated to us on how to best make this a living document moving forward that gets used. So this is a document that's heavily used in a lot of grant applications. If they're listed in goals and objectives and policies, and it ties into all the other plans that the city has.
So this is strategic planning is ultimately what it comes down to.
Straight up visioning for 20 years. For the
Yeah,
Commonwealth.
so without such a product, the Common Council is driving blind, the staff is driving blind. I mean, we're just, putting out fires day to day with no direction. I mean, personally, I definitely have this very high on my above the line. Is there anyone here who does not feel this should be funded next year?
39? Yeah,
It's 39, yeah. Okay, we keep it for now. All right.
738.
No, that's the comprehensive plan we just talked about. Let's go back to 37. Yeah. All right.
So my question for 37 and 38, Katie, is it possible to reduce those amounts and still be viable?
I believe that it's more important to do 37 than it is to do 38. If we had to remove one, I would recommend remove number 38.
And that's what I propose we do.
I do have 37 above my line too, so. Was it 40 then that I had overlooked? Is that? Yeah, so that's one we must do, correct?
Yes, unless it's not funded, then it could be moved.
So we have 37 in,
37, 39,
and we have
And
38
40.
out.
yeah, 38 out and 39
Sorry,
and 40.
40 is in, and I think 41 we can take out.
I agree with that.
20,000 isn't even a viable number anymore. I think 20,000 was from 5 years ago, the first time we put it in.
One moment, I'm updating my charts. Urban forestry. The inventory. And that is for 5,000. Is that? Is the re-inventory, would that even be allowed to be bonded?
The greenhouse gas inventory?
No, the urban forestry re-inventory of the public trees, number 40.
Yes, typically that is able to be bonded for
Good,
typically.
okay.
I am still waiting from our contact at Bayard to get back to me on which items can and can't be bonded for, but last year when that one was on the list, it was able to be bonded for.
Okay, good, okay. We are now on to the fire department.
Planning department. Oh, well,
So-
That's
right,
true.
right.
So for fire department, I think we should leave in 42 and 43, but I think we're okay to take out 44 and 45.
100% agreement on both.
I mean, those two, it will probably reoccur in the next several years, but for this year, that's where I'm.
And under the portable radio replacement, you'll notice under my chart, I only have $3,000, although it's listed on the city's capital improvements proposed projects as 40. It's because Chief shared with me that he has 37,000 remaining from his 22 grant. Correct?
Right. I just want to explain this real quick again. You probably heard it a few times. For the 2022 budget, we had approximately 30,000 left over from truck one that we purchased from 2020. Now I'd have to confirm those numbers with Sabrina. We also have $7,000 in the 2022 budget. And this $37,000 was to be used to cover the AFG grant that we have to replace all of our radios. La Crosse, Onalaska, Holman have joined, and Shelby to replace all of our radios. We have not heard on that grant yet. So of the $360,000 for the FG grant, our cost would have been about 36,000. That's why that was budgeted. So that leads us to tonight. Most recently, around 5 o'clock, I received an updated bid for a radio replacement, and it's at $243,000. So you could subtract off that 37,000, and that would be the remaining. So what we're looking at is right now there's no guarantees that they can service our portable radios. So we're in need of replacing all the radios at about $8,100 each for 30 radios. That's why I was proposing a 3-year plan, starting with year 1 to cover the AFG grant, the perfect scenario. If that didn't work out, then we go to year 2 and year 3 to see how we can get those radios replaced.
So
What
Is-
dollar amount do you need to have in here?
it's a 3?
That's really, if you want to replace all of them, the dollar amount that you would have to have in there would be 206,303. But if you want to stretch that out, that is subtracting off the 37,000 I talked about. If you wanted to stretch that out to do part of it in 23 and the other part in 24, it would be roughly 100,000 for the next 2 years, each year.
So it'd be 3,000 this year, 100,000 next year, and 100,000 next year. Assuming you don't get grant money.
I have, in 22, I have 37,000. So for 23, proposing an additional 103,000, and
What's
then
going on?
24, 103,000.
So 103,000, that includes the 37,000?
Yes, that would be 37 plus 103, and 103 should equal 243,000.
I'm still not clear.
So we're replacing 30 radios at $8,000 a piece. You can do the math on it, add in a couple chargers.
8,000 apiece, you said,
Yep.
and you need 10 each year. So that's going to be 80,000. So, but you, for this year, you have 37,000 remaining that you can apply to that.
Correct. I could buy radios with the 37,000 if we do not get the AFG grant.
So it's at 43 then. It's 43. Yeah. So what you'd be needing this year for 1/3 of the radios is 43,000, because you have another 37,000 to put.
Sure, that would be fair to say. As long as we meet the 243,000 in 2 years, which would be the end of,
You're hoping for grant though. So I mean, I
Yeah,
understand
but-
we're rolling the dice here.
we rolled the dice. I wasn't gonna put in, a full 243,000 when I had an AFG grant in that I talked about last year. But I needed to cover that grant with 37,000. That's why that's in the budget this year in 2022. If we do not get it, we can use that 37, and we have to come up with the additional 206,000 to reach our 243 to replace all radios. I don't know what the price of the radios are going to be moving forward.
Yeah, of course they'll go up.
If you get the grant, you still need are there 2 separate things you're applying? Are those 2 separate things?
If I get the grant, that'll cover all the radios for 37,000 versus 243.
So that's where we might as well see if the grant comes in before we fund a lot of money
Yeah.
towards it.
The problem is, I don't know if they're getting to the end of the grant period right now or not. I know La Crosse received 2 grants and other grants went out, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I can't guarantee anything because the total grant is over $1 million for the 4 fire departments as part of a federal grant.
I'm not questioning the need for the radios.
No, I
gotta
just want to make sure you're clear because we had 2 different angles. We have a total replacement of all the radios. We have the AFG grant, and then we have 30 radios. It's all the same, except we would have saved a lot of money.
Well,
if we
here's my
received the grant.
idea, because we have a lot to get through.
Yep.
Why don't we leave it at 40,000 for right now, and we'll ask the chief just to put together a very simple summary of of what you just said so that we can understand it and have it in writing. And maybe before our next public works.
Sure.
meeting.
Okay.
'Cause this is an ongoing discussion, so.
Yeah,
we can
sure.
just think
I'll
about
break it down to
Maybe a
cover.
month from now, you'll have more information.
And I have this as my second highest priority on the entire, on my notes is number 2 overall.
When it was 40,
Right.
when you thought it was 7,000.
When I thought it was 3,000, but
Yeah, so
it
now
doesn't
all of a
change
sudden
the
It's
need.
106,000.
It, the cost, the way I did it is a one-to-end list. So even if it was 400,000, it would still be my number 2 priority. It just would mean a lot of other projects would pop off. All right, so yeah, it's 40,000 instead of 3,000.
Yeah, let's just leave it in at 40 and then
Okay.
Chief can
Yep.
give us a little summary and then next,
By the next meeting, I would say
we should
it
know.
would be either a yes or no on that grant. So
Oh, good.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
Yeah, we can make more informed decisions.
Chief,
Good.
can you stay up here? I have a question.
Mhm.
Alder, not, am I good?
Yes, go ahead, please.
So the command vehicle, can you just explain the need for that this year?
So we have, and I work close, I'm not putting Jared on the spot. I work close with him on our vehicle replacement plan. We have a vehicle that needs to be replaced, which is the command vehicle, which I believe is a 2007 or 2008. And we replaced with a pickup truck multi-use last year was the F-250 that we bought. Also moving forward, which you haven't seen yet, is for 2024 replacing a rescue truck. So we don't want to get behind. I didn't put additional vehicles in to pad it. But I always, like I said, I work close with Jared on that to try and keep our fleet, ready to go. So that Yukon, so just to back up a little bit, we didn't sell the Expedition yet when we bought the F-250. So we plan on selling that, but we've been using it quite a bit for running back and forth inspections, things like that. So that vehicle will be sold in 2023. Once we get this vehicle, and then we'll move the Yukon, the 2008, to a support vehicle. Does that answer your question?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, chief.
Yep.
So, yeah, we have 42 and 43 and 44 and 45 out. Which brings us to 46 Parks and Rec.
Well, at 45, are we doing design or anything on that?
No, not this year. Unless you want to argue, we should.
I mean, are we, purchasing the property or not?
Not at this time.
Good evening.
Okay.
Glad to see all are here tonight.
You still awake?
I still am.
So number 46.
So just so everybody knows, different from probably a lot of these, the park board has reviewed the parks, the Omni, the library, the city hall. They've prioritized them based on the park boards. So what you see here is the prioritized list that the park board with staff input and things put together.
Which means we don't have to agree with it, but we should consider the fact.
That's
It's-
just, it is a prioritized list based on the park
They
board.
gave us a one to end, yes.
Can you highlight before, like, just a general thing for everyone, like just a couple things that are really big priorities for the Parks Department or for the from the Parks Board, like overall?
Well, I mean, based on this list,
Well, I know, but it's like they're all separated according to categories, so.
yeah, I mean, the things that the board went through, I mean, because they looked at them as each individual priority. So it's difficult to say, but looking at the parks, the health department has brought up concerns with our grading at the aquatic center. So that's why this is a new item and has brought this to the top of the list. We replaced some of the grading back in 2020 when we re-plastered the pool. We did the zero depth. We didn't have the funding to do all around the periphery, but so this is replacing that, and then the health department would be satisfied based on what we currently have on the deck.
It's a safety / liability issue.
So second item is the ADA. Back when we did the ADA.
We discussed, is there anyone who would argue that we should not keep 46? Okay, all right, go ahead, Dan.
The ADA, this is something when we did the ADA transition plan, you see it in Public Works with our sidewalks and things. We have roughly $5.5, $6 million worth of improvements that need to be made throughout the city. So by taking a few projects that we can do inside facilities, this 30,000 will make improvements at City Hall, the Omni, library, parks, kind of all over. We've just went with a blanket number that we can kind of get in and do.
Does signage go in that?
What?
Can signage be covered under that?
Some signage could be covered under that, but if we start looking at doing that, it's going to take from other things that are probably bigger priorities.
So is there anyone who would argue we should not do the ADA improvements? We have that, they got bumped from 2022. Right, that's in.
Okay. 48 is Glen Fox Park. This is a park that we've had this basketball project in since 2019. Continues to get pushed out. The basketball court is unusable at this time because of the cracking. And as Jared said, his streets, we got more grass on that. I think we spend more time mowing the basketball court than we do some of the areas of our park with just the condition of it. The neighbors in the area have been very patient, but we do hear from them asking when we can anticipate seeing this improvement made.
I do have it above my line. We always try to hit at least one park every year. Is there anyone who wants to argue that we should not do Glen Fox Park?
I'll just say, that's my neighborhood, but these items now from 48 down to the end almost never will make it through the whole process. So at some point you need to rip the Band-Aid off and say, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a quick observations on these, each one of them. We can talk to them as a group. Wellington Greens, we're seeing more and more kids participate in soccer. We do not have a soccer complex. We're using the same fields for all of our sports. So Wellington Greens is a large green space that we would like to be able to come in, regrade, get to an elevation, and bring up so that we can have a soccer complex out there and try to move it off of some of our primary fields. Sandalwood Park, this has been a very contentious item since the state came in and removed a bunch of trees on their property. We are hopeful. I say we, Jared and I are hopeful that the state is going to come in here. They said they'd come in September, October. So we are in October right now to finish that project, because I think if they do the work that they need to do, it may limit or may reduce some of the flooding we're seeing there. Aquatic Center roofs, this is on here. Our Aquatic Center is 20 years old with the amount of activity. The one building there, the roof was original probably from 96, 97 time. The other one was put in when we built the pool. The next two, 52 and 53. At some point, I think the mayor said to hit the nail on the head. We got to rip the Band-Aid off. We have to understand that our playgrounds are getting older. Back in 1996, the city put in 13 new playgrounds because it was deemed they were not safe prior to that, and they had to be removed. So these playgrounds are 25 plus years old, and they've reached their life expectancy. And so we are in need of putting together a plan, and we need to put some emphasis on trying to come in and annually, as we're doing with trucks, with streets, we're going to have to come in and start reinvesting into our parks with new playgrounds and things of that nature. We had put community park in there in this year to be done. Now with some conversations and with a local service group that's looking at adding an all abilities playground, that may be the location that this one is. So I wouldn't recommend necessary funding, but we do have 13 other parks that had equipment installed in 1996 that any one of them definitely could use a facelift and have improvements made to it. And then item 54, this did not go to the park board. This is something Jared and I have worked with. This is actually charging stations, as we are seeing some more of Steven's favorite thing, electric vehicles.
But we make money on this.
Right.
No,
I thought that they pay for it.
they'll pay for their own electricity, but
Okay,
they
so
won't
it's-
make money.
Okay, got it. All right. It's a service, but it's a one-time cost.
Right.
Got it.
So it is something that we're looking at the Great River Landing. There are more and more people traveling, parking there. Jared has brought it forward, looking at the opportunity to possibly put that in.
And that's under other sources funding. That wouldn't require bonding.
So when I say other sources funding, it'd be working with Excel and then paying for the project through the monthly bill that would come from Excel, would have a charge on it for the capital service.
I'm not opposed to that. I don't know if somebody else is.
Did Amanda want to say?
Amanda?
Oh, you can finish on Excel. I want to.
Okay, well, I still want to kind of go line by line here. So again, back to 48, and when we've punted that a lot, I've seen it with my own eyes. Again, the basketball court itself is disintegrating. It's, you know, I wouldn't want to use it. It's real bad shape. I would personally like to keep that above the line. Is there anyone who opposes that?
No, we can keep it in.
Okay.
And every year, like one of the things that I think about is for parks, I think we should spend at least $100,000 on the parks. I mean, that'd be like the minimum because of just spreading out the capital improvement projects. Last year we did the restroom in Rowe Park, and I also just wanted to just pause a minute too and just really thank Dan and his team for the job they've done with the new parks, making our playgrounds diverse and having points of different interest in each of the new parks. I think they've done an excellent job doing with that. And I look forward to upgrading the playground and the play structures and the different themes in other parks in upcoming years. So I'm not against it. It's just a matter of what the priority is at the time.
Stephen.
Oh,
So as Dan said, you know, we, just like he stated, whether we got streets or sanitary sewers or things, you need to have a plan. And with 25-year-old park equipment, when we went looking at park equipment today, you know, even if you only replace 1 a year, you still got 13 more years, and they're probably going to be $200,000 a piece to replace. So you got to have a plan. You got to do some of them. It's either that or you're going to make a decision that Dan's going to come forward at some point here in the not so distant future where he's going to come in and say, we're going to remove playground equipment at 13 parks. And that's going to be the decision. Then you're going to be forced to make that decision due to safety concerns. And I think that's going to be a shame, but we got to find a way to get some sort of funding for playground equipment if that's something that we deem is important in our parks. Amanda's got her hand up.
okay, Amanda.
I mean, on that note, I would ask that you keep number 52 in the Oakwood Park basketball court and playground replacement. If you're familiar, it's one of our most visible parks. You probably drive by it every day and don't realize it. It's located just off of Main Street. But to Dan's point, we have several 1996 parks. But the reality is that we also have 4 2001 parks, a 2002 park. And so we have roughly 75% of our playgrounds. And I apologize, I like to use the word park, but really I mean playground. 75% of our playgrounds are 20 years old. And so we really do have to address this, much like we do our streets and our vehicles. We have not updated a playground since 2018. And so I would really appreciate if you would consider funding a playground this year.
So if we did the 52, item 52 for 60,000, am I reading that right? It's for 60,000. And Glenn Fox Park at 25, and then the 8A improvements are with the parks too. We're well over the 100,000. Would that meet what you want to do, Mayor?
Well, I was just saying, like, we should spend at least that much, not.
Oh, it is over.
I mean, I'm okay with, and the thing, just also taking into consideration, this is ranked in order what the park department or the park board wanted. So, I mean, they felt that the Wellington Green soccer fields and the Sandalwood thing and the Glen Park thing were all more important than the Oakwood Park.
Well, the issue
Their
I have with
perspective.
Wellington Greens is what we're hearing is that we have all these parks that need to be updated, replaced, what have you. Wellington Green would be new. That would be additions, right?
That's a soccer complex, though. This would be grading. This would be out, this would be a lot of work from that standpoint. That's not playgrounds.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is if we did that, we're not getting any replacement on the park.
You're correct, but right now we're using it as a soccer field and we have a swale running through the middle of our field.
I'm not saying it's not necessary, but what I'm hearing is a call for help on updating, maintaining, replacing existing stuff.
Correct.
That doesn't do it.
I agree with you, Steve. I'm just saying, so I would concur with Amanda said, we need to try to get more stern, you know, with replacing playgrounds and getting it on a plan to move forward.
Okay, well, how about just to, in interest in moving forward, how about for this section, we leave everything in except for item 53,
Wow.
which is $100,000 for now. And then when we come back through on our second pass, we can discuss it in more detail.
Okay,
I can't see $60,000 into a basketball court. We got so much replacement on everything.
It isn't just a basketball court, it's also playground equipment.
yeah, it's basically redoing the entire park.
That basketball court there, what we have as basketball is actually about a 15 by 15 little bitty pad. It's not even a court, but it's a little pad that was put in that park because it's a very small little neighborhood or, you know, little pocket park. But so that's what we have. It's a very small piece of asphalt there.
Yeah.
It's not a real court. The majority of this is going to be stuck into the equipment, putting new equipment and stuff in.
I just don't see there's any way that we can pay for everything but one item on here. I mean,
And I'm just saying that since we're kind of divided on this, that we can just leave it in for now, put it on the maybe list,
Right.
and then come back to it in interest of it being.
well, that's gonna
9:30.
come into play. Just keep that in mind when we move forward, because we're gonna come back to paving at the end as well. So, I mean, we're gonna say, oh my goodness, we can't afford any of the paving because of the cost is so high. Well, that's because we just kept everything into the parks but one item, and that's not realistic. I don't see how that's gonna go forward like that. So just keep it in mind. 49, 50, 51. And then 54 is again, not bonded. That would be through, again, other sources in partnership with Excel. All right, on to. What's that? Yeah, 52. On to the police department. Chief, you can come on up. Is there anyone who wants to argue that we should not be getting the patrol cars? Because we already kind of voted on that.
Yep.
All right, so 55, 56 are moving forward. So, and then 57, you had grant money on, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we
So-
can take that off the list.
So that can come off the list. So go ahead and start with 58.
So this is a second year request on basically replacing our current four-wheeler with a utility vehicle. So that gives us capabilities for multiple things, patrolling the various paths, bike paths, walking paths, scenic trails that we have around city that we continue to add with the annexation of additional lands over the last couple of years. It gives us the ability as a utility vehicle to at the special events that we have, National Night Out and other events, the golf outing, and we can transport materials and different things for those events. Special events like 5K runs and whatnot, we can transport people, no parking signs or other types of equipment at those events. So just a multitude of uses for that utility vehicles, trying to replace our old and outdated four-wheeler.
I do not have that on my above the line. How old is the vehicle you're using right now?
That is a
But older than the cemetery vehicle.
Yeah.
It's as old as a
Competition.
cemetery vehicle, but it's probably 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's gotta be 20 years old.
Yeah, I think it was gotten on a grant maybe way back in 2003 or somewhere there.
You
I
guys
think it was
share.
a 911 money or something.
You
What?
guys share one.
Oh, actually, we talked about with the fire department, going in and replacing the one that they have with a unit that has multi-use, that the back seats can be put down so that you could put a longboard in there if we had to do a search and rescue up into any of the coulees, you know, that kind of stuff. That capability. So as a cost sharing between departments.
What do y'all think? Sabrina? We're gonna go work around.
I guess it would not be above my line.
Mayor?
Guess I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I'll go with the committee.
Larry?
I know it's an item that can be used quite a bit. 30,000. Is there additional funding for that other than bonding?
Well, we wouldn't bond it. That wouldn't fit it. It would have to be a short-term loan or ARPA or some other type of means. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in order to use a bond, it has to be something basically, you think about it, that is going to last 20 years or longer. All right.
I have no problem with it.
As in you want
You
to,
have no problem with it on or off? On, all right, because yeah, again, I have it off. Jared?
It's, I guess it'd come down to which one's more important, utility vehicle, the interview room system. No, I guess that'd be kind of the choice.
I've got the interview
Yes.
system definitely more higher.
Yeah,
Which one's higher to
I'd say
you?
that.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with the interview room system. I mean, obviously I have a need for both, but you know, the interview room system, we're in the second phase of trying to complete that project. So I'd rather complete that project and all be on the same system instead of going between two systems and whatnot with the interview room system. So yes, I would.
Every single item that's on here, I assume there's a real need or it wouldn't be there.
I know.
There's give and take and negotiation on here. That's where we're going,
Yep.
chief. So, I mean, you got your 3 new police cars, 1 unmarked, 2 new ones. I'm going to argue for the Axon interview system instead of the utility vehicle.
Yeah, but this Axon system, you already have what, 3 in place
Correct.
now?
Correct. This project would be funding the final 2. So once this is done, then we are done with that project.
Right now, he's having to train on 2 different systems because they're not compatible. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's go around again. I guess we'll just do kind of a thumbs up, down. So above or below? You're saying below?
below.
Mayor?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you'll make the choice of the other thing, then 58 is an X for me.
All right. Larry, you were above?
No, I'll go with the chief's recommendation.
I don't think it was his
It's not a
recommendation.
recommendation. It's kind of like, I'm willing to give it up if it means I get the X.
He's setting the priority.
X on room, not the utility vehicle. All right, let's take it off. And then, so then, which brings us to the interview system. Now, that one, I also have a note that it's $7,000 of 22 ARPA that can be applied to this, which would bring the request down to 64.2. Is that correct? Wait, what am I doing here? No, I'm looking at the unmarked police car. Hold up. I do have 6.9K of ARPA though on this.
Correct. So the current Axon project that we completed this year, looks like I have approximately 6,900 remaining in those funds, which were ARPA money. That project got completed cheaper than what we had estimated. So I was asking to carry over that ARPA money, 6,900, to then reduce the amount of our, money we would need for the next interview.
Brings it down to 23.1.
Correct.
So it's 23.1 is what he needs. Is there anyone who wants to argue we should not have that above the line? And that could be, again, ARPA money too. So it cannot be a bond. All right. Next is the VR video de-escalation system.
So that is a new request, as you can see. Essentially what it is training as technology has advanced. Essentially, virtual reality goggles that officers would wear. You'd have a training officer that has the program and putting officers into scenarios, and you can have up to 2 officers at a time going through scenarios, talking to the subjects, and you can have a million different scenarios, whether it's the use of force or just de-escalating a person in crisis. There's tools you can use as far as guns, pepper spray, tasers, and then it measures all of that. And you can analyze that, and it's it's the way training is going, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the YouTube program is excellent.
Yeah, when you see the capabilities in the instructor, the officer can actually talk into the mic, and then that comes across as the voice of the suspect or the subject that the officer is interacting with. And it used to be all canned responses where, you know, the instructor would have to hit like, oh, I want option this, where they're combative or they're, you know, compliant and whatnot. And so now it's just,
I mean,
Loaded.
even the ability to change facial recognition from talking to you to anger in just a few seconds is really almost amazing. They're looking right at it through those goggles.
So my, I guess my comments on it, Chief, are, I think it's a great system. The issue we're up against is you have gotten several high dollar items already on your list this year. You know, if the citizens of my district would be kind enough to send me back next year, I'd probably be a very strong advocate for this next year, I suspect. But I think that, you know, I guess I'm arguing you've gotten your share. You may disagree, but you know, so I do have this below the line. We can go the other way so I can save you from going first, Sabrina. Jared, what do you think?
Is this something we can either get a grant or share with, like, split the cost of Holman or somebody? You're gonna use it all day, every day.
correct, it would not be. I mean, ideally, yes, I would love to be able to cost share with other agencies. To me, that makes perfect sense. You know, it's a little easier said than done when it comes to municipalities, and then who keeps the equipment, and if something breaks, who's paying for it? And so, you know, the concept's easier said than done, but I do truly believe that if we could work out something like that, that totally makes sense, because it's not something you use every day, and so it could help reduce costs. So that could be something I could try to look into over this next year and whatnot,
Great.
and then come back with this project next year.
And how many can we share with? Because obviously lacrosse is probably too big of a department to be sharing it with. They'd be basically using it all the time. But not just Holman, but maybe West Salem and or La Crescent even. You know, these are all, you know, smaller departments that wouldn't, you know, subsume the entire thing. You'd have to look at how often they'd want to use it and stuff, but yeah, possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, even if they can lease out time, you know, so many days for each department.
Well, if they help pay for it, you know, based off of a percentage of usage type of a thing, maybe. Great idea, Jared. So, so you're saying defer till next year and see if there are other options? Is that what I'm hearing, Jared?
Yeah.
Hearing that idea, I love that. Yep. Murray?
I love the idea, the concept of it and everything like that. Sooner the training we could get, but yeah, I can see postponing this for 1 year and get more research on it.
Mayor?
Yeah, I think that I'm okay with putting it off a year, but we can never undervalue the necessity of training our police officers. Time and time again, we see things in the news that we don't want to have happening here. And the number one thing that we have control over, that we can do something about, is ensuring that our officers have adequate training so that they can have that split-second response to do the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
We have that obligation to our taxpayers and our
Agree.
community.
Larry?
Chief, could you find out about sending somebody just for training for this year and get them trained up on it? That way, when they come back next year to us, he'll have a lot more details on it, and he's already been through whatever training class they might have.
I could look into it and see if that's a possibility. Yep.
That way we're not just wasting a year. We got somebody, you know, actually in the program learning it.
Sabrina?
Oh, I'm okay keeping it below the line.
Below the line, okay. All right. Hopefully next year though, Chief.
So I completely understand. We got a lot of important projects on here, and we all have to do our fair share. So thank you though.
Thanks. All right, now we're on to Omni Center. Yeah, it's been a long time. Let's take 5 minutes and let everybody take a break real quick. All right. We're moving along pretty good. I was hoping to be done by 10:30. We're probably gonna be about 10:30.